Chapter 506, Revenge for Us in the Future. At the same time, Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Inside the prince's mansion, as a dragon roared, Nangong Chen, who was practicing, suddenly opened his eyes and looked up at the sky. In the sky, endless fire mist rose up, covering the entire palace. Even if you were far away on the ground, you could still feel the scorching heat that seemed to refine everything. Nangong Chen's double pupils glowed faintly, and his gaze was fixed on the shadow of a galloping dragon in the mist of fire. That's right. Since he returned to the palace that day, he let Xiaoqi swallow the essence of Qishan. Xiaoqi has been sleeping until now and has finally woken up. Is this going to turn into a dragon? Nangong Chen murmured. He could clearly see that the two bulges on the dragon's head were getting bigger and bigger, as if something was about to break out of the shell, just like the legendary scene of a dragon transforming into a dragon. His grandfather once joked that Xiaoqi's ancestor was a real dragon, with a trace of real dragon blood in his body. When he breaks through, there's a chance that he will revert to his ancestral form and become a real dragon. But at that time, he didn't think much of it. He thought that even if Xiaoqi had true dragon blood, it had been several generations now, and the blood was pitifully thin. The probability of him turning into a dragon was even lower than choking to death while drinking water. But now it seems like he has really struck lucky. Wrong. Nangong Chen frowned slightly. If he really had good luck, he wouldn't have waited until he was 18 to come to the system. He scanned the area carefully with his double pupils several times, and only then did he discover that in the palace, there was a faint imperial aura rising straight up, nourishing Xiaoqi. It turns out that this imperial dragon vein can also increase the probability of a dragon transforming into a dragon. After Nangong Chen figured out the reason, he suddenly realized it and couldn't help but sigh again at the horror of the imperial dragon vein. The other side, many powerful people in the palace were alarmed and looked towards the sky. Soon they frowned. Under the cover of the fire mist, they could not see anything clearly. They could only vaguely see a dragon-like figure constantly shuttling through the clouds. Nangong Zhan and Nangong Yu also appeared in the palace at the same time. Their cultivation is powerful, and they can see more deeply than ordinary strong people. After a while, he saw a red dragon circling in the depths of the fire fog. Its entire body was covered with fiery red scales, and even dragon horns were about to grow on its head. Nangong Zhan was stunned and shocked. Didn't you just catch a red dragon in the ravine? How could it turn into a dragon? You have to know that it is a real dragon, one of the 10 evil beasts, and it is completely 2 levels of ferocious beasts from ancient species, such as the Jiao. If that red dragon could really transform into a dragon, then his son would make a fortune. How would I know? Could it be that I have a keen eye for talent and caught a dragon with rich ancestral bloodline? Nangong Yu said this quite narcissistically, but he still felt a little unsure. Because it is impossible for a Jiao to transform into a dragon. This is not in the upper realm. This is the 10 realms. There are not so many natural treasures for him to transform into. Nangong Zhan shook his head after hearing this. This old immortal probably didn't even know what was so special about this dragon. He is unreliable. My own son is more reliable. The two of them had different thoughts and were both thinking about it. A few breaths later, another dragon roar was heard from the sky. Roar. It's even more intimidating than the previous cry. There were many exotic beasts kept in captivity in the palace, but after hearing the dragon's roar, their hair stood on end and they crawled on the ground. There is no way. This is the suppression of the real dragon over other ferocious beasts. If their ancestors came, they would still have to lie on the ground. Soon, the fire mist dissipated, and Xiaoqi's figure appeared before the world. The dragon's head has grown 2 large lumps, and its entire body is covered with fiery red scales. It has 4 claws, and its red tail is floating in the air. Its dragon eyes are looking down at the world, and it is extremely domineering. A dragon's might descended upon the world, and terrifying air waves continued to expand. The faces of the strong men in the palace were a little pale, and there were some saint-level, strong men among them. They were actually trembling in their hearts under this pressure. They recognized this dragon. It was the prince's red dragon, and now it had transformed into a half-dragon. Oh my god! Nangong Chen took in this scene, but his face showed a hint of regret. What a pity, he was almost able to transform into a dragon. Now, Xiaoqi's bloodline level should be just below the 10 evils. However, being able to break through to the Saint King is also a huge achievement. Nangong Chen thought truthfully in his heart. Soon, after flying for a while, Xiaoqi in the sky shrank his body with great joy and flew in front of Nangong Chen. Thank you, Master, for giving me this opportunity. Xiaoqi's eyes were burning as he spoke in a buzzing voice, his voice extremely childish. In his heart, Nangong Chen is closer to him than his parents. Yes, your improved strength will also be helpful to me. Nangong Chen nodded slightly and gave a rare compliment. With the addition of a Saint King level fighter, anyone would probably feel much better. What's more, the little red bloodline is now probably hard to find an opponent in the entire Xiantian domain, and can be regarded as the #1 ferocious beast. After hearing this, Xiaoqi was very happy and circled around Nangong Chen twice. Seeing it so excited, Nangong Chen couldn't help but ask a few more questions and took a look at the 2 lumps of flesh on its forehead, which were crystal clear and exquisite. How far do you feel from being the real Jackie Chan? He still hoped that Xiaoqi could turn into a real dragon one day. After all, he could ride a dragon. Xiaoqi thought for a moment and said, "Master, it's not far away. The dragon blood in my body has awakened. If I can break through a few more times, I can transform into a real dragon. Of course, if the master could give me those few spirit essences just now, maybe I could turn into a dragon very quickly." After saying that, Xiaoqi looked at Nangong Chen with a greedy look on his face. It really is a money-eating beast. Nangong Chen thought to himself, where can he find a Red Mountain spirit for the other party? It would be good enough if he could find one. However, even as he thought this, Nangong Chen took out the fire-attributed fairy crystals left by the fallen sun god from a storage ring and placed them on the ground like a small cart. The little red dragon stared at the boss, his saliva almost dripping to the ground. "Master, are these all for me?" Nangong Chen nodded. These did not have much use to him. Just as Xiaoqi was frantically swallowing the fairy crystal, Nangong Chen's heart trembled, and he quickly took out a formation plate. On the exquisite array plate, a red light was constantly flashing. This was the simple communication tool he had made. It had a formation he had carved on it, and he only gave it to people close to him. Only an extremely weak voice was heard slowly. It was his second Uncle Nangong Wentian. In the wilderness, the demon tribe launched a surprise attack, resulting in heavy casualties. Now the ferocious beasts are at the gates of the city, and the only option is to fight to the death. Avenge us in the future. Chinner. Chapter 507. The Fury of King Tianyuan and the Despair of the People in the Wilderness. Not long after, a clear, mysterious light bloomed in the prince's mansion, with the 8 trigrams and yin and yang patterns entwined on it. Nangong Chen, Xiaoqi, and the beast disappeared from their original positions in an instant. In the void, Shura, who was guarding from afar, could no longer hide and instantly came to the mansion. He widened his eyes and looked around, but he could no longer sense the breath of the man and the beast, as if they had disappeared out of thin air. Wasn't the prince still in his sight just now? He only saw him take out a formation plate, and then he disappeared. Weren't they still here just now? Where are they? He murmured, feeling a little shocked. It's bad. We have to go and inform His Majesty immediately. The prince's sudden disappearance was a big deal. If anything went wrong, he couldn't afford it. Not long after, Shura also disappeared from the spot and headed straight for the palace. At the same time, inside the palace, the ministers trembled and did not dare to look up at the man on the dragon throne, for fear of triggering his anger. Just now, breaking news came that a legion of monsters suddenly emerged from the Broken Sky Rift Valley in the southwest of central Shenzhou and destroyed the 8 major Huangfeng families in an instant. It is said that ferocious beasts have now entered the country on a large scale and killed people in central Shenzhou. Of course, this is not the real reason why King Tianyuan was angry, but it is very likely that one of the ferocious beast legions has gone to the wilderness. You know, Man Huang and his divine dynasty had just sent troops to guard there a while ago, but due to the long distance, only a part of the troops were transported during this period. The rest of the Tianyuan army has not yet started to be transported and is still staying in the divine dynasty. This means that the current Monghuang army is not yet complete. To be precise, it is less than 1/10 of the complete force. It is extremely weak. If there is any mistake, there is a high probability that the entire army will be wiped out. Your Majesty, the spy that our divine dynasty planted in central Shenzhou, has replied. But soon, a voice slowly came from outside the hall. It was a Tianyuan soldier. Everyone looked up, and even Nangong Zhan's eyes gleamed. Isn't this the news they are waiting for? The Tianyuan soldiers also knew the seriousness of the matter, and without hesitation, they directly told the most crucial information. According to them, the demonic beasts that invaded central Shenzhou were divided into 2 legions, each of which contained approximately 10 million demonic beasts. 10 million. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present took a deep breath. But what shocked them was yet to come. Among them, the high-end combat power of one legion is estimated to be 5 saint-level beasts, 15 quasi-saint-level beasts, and as for God Kings, judging from distance, a rough estimate is 10,000. The rest are all ferocious beasts below the divine king realm. In that letter, The spies even said they saw a young demon figure commanding 2 large legions. They called him the Little Demon King. After the Tianyuan soldier finished speaking, he hurriedly knelt on the ground, not daring to look up at Nangong Chen. When they learned the news, they were all shocked. At this moment, there was silence in the hall, and all the ministers and generals present were shocked by the news. The number of this monster army is actually tens of millions. What's even more terrifying is that their high-end combat force includes 5 saints, 15 quasi-saints, and even 10,000 god kings. This is just a rough estimate. Who knows? There might be some powerful ones among those monsters. However, what made them most disappointed was the soldiers' last words. A young beast, named Little Demon King, is leading 2 large demon beast armies. The demon race's accumulation over the years is surprisingly terrifying. A minister couldn't help but exclaimed, "No wonder the 8 great families of Huangfeng were destroyed in an instant." I don't know if the number of people in those 8 families was even 100,000, not to mention the number of strong ones. They were unilaterally crushed by the army of monsters. If this happened in central China, if the human forces did not unite, I'm afraid that no one would be able to be a match for the other side. By then, destruction is only a matter of time. Little Demon King, isn't this title one of the descendants of the demon emperor who once ruled the entire Xintian realm? Some people also remembered something, and their faces changed drastically. It is said that during the era when the demon race ruled, the most outstanding geniuses were all crowned kings. One was the Little Demon King, and the other was the Little Demon Queen. The 2 were born together since childhood. This also means that the Little Demon King has appeared, and most likely the Little Demon Queen has also appeared. The Little Demon King appeared on the front battlefield, but the Little Demon Queen disappeared. This is likely to be with the army heading into the wilderness. The more these ministers and generals thought about it, the more frightened they became, until their backs felt cold. The Little Demon King and the Little Demon Queen are not ordinary demon beasts. They are pure-blooded creatures that are far more powerful than the ancient species. This level of ferocious beasts not only have talents far superior to other ancient species, but their strength is also top-notch among ferocious beasts, so powerful that it is unimaginable. In that era, even when facing the siege of 10 powerful human saints, the Little Demon King did not lose the upper hand, and was even able to kill a few of them. Even the evildoers and the hidden families must be avoided. This is enough to show the horror of a pure-blooded creature. Sitting on the dragon throne, Nangong Chen closed his eyes slightly, his heart chilled, and he asked, "What is the current strength of the barbarian army?" "There are only 100,000 soldiers. Among them, there is 1 saint and 5 quasi-saints, led by Huang Lao, one of the 8 great generals of Tianyuan. Among the quasi-saints, General Nangong Chen is also among them. Among the 100,000 soldiers, there are 1,000 god kings, and the rest are below the god king." A strong military figure responded quickly. Nangong Chen was stunned after hearing this, as if he had heard it wrongly. "Nangong Chen is also in the wilderness?" "That's right, Your Majesty. Some time ago, General Wen volunteered to go to the wilderness," the strong man from the military said tremblingly. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire palace felt a little cold. Why didn't you tell me earlier? If he knew about the dangerous place like the wilderness, how could he let Nangong Wen go there? Nangong Chen was stunned, and then he lay on the dragon throne with lifeless eyes, as if he had aged several years in an instant. 1 saint, 5 quasi-saints. How can they deal with a legion of ferocious beasts? Even if they sent Tianyuan soldiers there now, it would take at least half a day to get there by flying boat. I'm afraid I can only collect corpses during this half day. At this moment, the atmosphere in the hall was extremely depressing, and no one among the ministers dared to respond. Everyone knew that unless the barbarians received the news and retreated in advance, there would be no possibility of survival. But this is almost impossible. You know, even their palace has just learned the news, and there's still a time lag for this information. On the throne, Nangong Chen slowly came back to his senses. The lifelessness in his eyes turned into a strong, murderous intent, and a monstrous imperial aura erupted from him. "Pass on my oral order. Send Yamian and Kong Daoyuan, along with 10 saints in the army and 1,000,000 elite soldiers of the Tianyuan army. Take the flying boats and rush to the wilderness with all your might. Flatten the demon beast army and leave no one behind. I will make millions of their monsters be buried with the dead soldiers of my divine dynasty." After saying this, Su Ming responded and disappeared from the spot. The military and others also left the hall and quickly rushed to the army to organize an attack. As for the remaining people, they had just come out of their sadness, their fists clenched tightly, and their eyes showed fierceness. 2 Saint Kings, so many powerful men, and the elite of the Tianyuan army are enough to kill all those evil beasts. But soon, a black figure appeared in front of Nangong Chen. Shura knelt on the ground, took a deep breath, and said in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, the prince, has disappeared." How is that possible? Nangong Zhan's expression changed when he heard this. At the same time, in the wilderness, the last remaining city wall, in the military tent, after Nangong Chen finished speaking the last few words, not knowing whether the other party could hear him, he buried the formation plate in the ground behind him. This was a location he had specially chosen. Even after his death, the dirty blood would not contaminate the gift Shinner had given him. Thinking of this, he felt somewhat satisfied. If someone were here at this moment, they would find that his face was pale, his armor was tattered, and there were scars of varying sizes on his exposed flesh. The holy sword beside, it was also covered with cracks and looked extremely dull. You know, this is a holy weapon. The fact that it can be broken is enough to prove the intensity of this battle. Nangong Chen took a deep breath and felt a dull pain in his 5 fingers. Because he had used too much force, his flesh and blood were blurred. But even so, he still picked up the holy sword and hung it around his waist, put away his reluctance, and walked out with a determined look on his face. "General Nangong, there's only 1 stick of incense left before the monster destroys this formation." Seeing the general appear, a soldier with a rather young face outside the tent spoke. The soldier's name was Li Shun. He was the youngest doctor in the army. He had cured Lan Jia the day before. Nangong Chen has always had a good impression of him. He nodded slightly and glanced at the light blue barrier above his head. At this moment, many spiderweb-like cracks had appeared on the barrier and were still expanding rapidly. It seems that it won't take long for this city defense formation to dissipate. Have all the old, weak, and sick people in the wilderness left? Nangong Chen looked at Li Shun beside him and said in a deep voice. Li Shun shook his head, revealing a helpless look. "No one left, they all stayed here. Of course, it's not that we don't let them go, it's that they don't want to leave." As soon as he finished speaking, several voices sounded behind him. "General Nangong, we have lived in the wilderness for generations. Now, those monsters are about to invade our homeland. How could we possibly abandon you and leave when you, the soldiers of the Divine Dynasty, are still here? That's right. At worst, we'll die together. We'll fight to the very end." Many old men who had difficulty walking now picked up weapons in their hands, their eyes filled with hatred towards the invaders. Among them were 2 descendants of the Wooling clan. Lanimo said with a calm face, "You young people are not afraid, so why should we old guys who are already in the coffin be afraid? The worst that can happen is that we sacrifice our lives for the wilderness." "Yes, Shaoli, I can join you in the battle later." Lan Zhao was also a little excited and looked at Li Shun. He wanted to prove to the other party that his treatment could have some effect on the patients he had been treating these days. Li Shun smiled and nodded at him. Seeing this, Nangong Chen smiled and didn't refuse their kindness. What a wild place. There's not a single coward here. I, Nangong Chen, speak my mind and won't say anything sentimental. So, let me toast you a glass. He picked up the courage-boosting wine beside him and took a big gulp. When these wild old men saw this, they followed his lead and drank a big gulp. "The strong liquor flows down my throat, it's so hot. Good wine. So refreshing." Lan Jia, who was not far away, choked and his face turned red. He didn't know how to drink, let alone such strong liquor. Li Shun joked, "Brother Lan, if it really doesn't work, you'd better not force it." Lan Jia was a teenager to begin with, and, after being so stimulated, he could not hold back any longer. He just gulped down the drink and drank the rest in one gulp, choking to the point of tears. When everyone saw this, they burst into laughter. Nangong Chen couldn't help but smile as he watched this scene, but soon a hint of fatigue flashed in the depths of his eyes. He was thinking how great it would be if the ferocious beasts did not invade the wilderness. From dawn on, they kept fleeing. At first, there were 100,000 brothers, but when they reached the last city wall, only 10,000 were left. If he had not realized that the ferocious beast was about to attack, they would probably have all died by now. There are simply too many of them, tens of millions of ferocious beasts. This number is enough to make people despair. He had led troops to fight against beast tides before, but he had never seen so many ferocious beasts attacking at the same time. "I never thought that I would die in the belly of a ferocious beast just a few days after arriving in the wilderness." Nangong Chen couldn't help but reveal a bitter smile. Suddenly, an old voice came from his ear. "You didn't call me when you were drinking, did you, kid?" Nangong Chen looked up and saw a familiar old man. He was wearing black armor, with eyes like an eagle. He was holding a golden halberd in his hand, and his body was stained with blood. At this moment, the old man picked up a bowl of wine with a smile and drank it as if it were a treasure. The other party's name is Huang, one of the 8 great generals of Tianyuan. His cultivation is extremely terrifying and has reached the astonishing peak of sainthood. He is proficient in the Huang family's dragon and tiger skills and has led troops in countless battles throughout his life. He is also the only saint present. If it weren't for him, they might have died long ago. However, he did not get along well with the old man because the old man was very stingy and always thought that he was coveting his Huang's dragon and tiger kung fu, while he was just curious. Of course, if he could see it, he would really like to learn it. After all, he had seen the old man's dragon and tiger kung fu, which was simply incredibly powerful. Why? Do you regret coming here? Huang looked at his silent expression and smiled. Nangong Chen shook his head. Defending the country was his duty as a soldier. He had never regretted it and had long expected this day to come. It was just too fast. He wanted to see how far his nephew would go in the future. You're just mad at me for not showing you the Huang family dragon and tiger kung fu, right? Huang continued, raising his eyebrows slightly. Seeing that he was silent, Huang smiled and pointed at him, saying, You just want to learn everything. You are too greedy. Your status is destined to make you possess the best martial arts in the Divine Dynasty. I didn't show you the Huang family dragon and tiger kung fu because I was afraid of misleading you. His Majesty once commented on you, saying that you are a martial arts genius that only appears once in 1,000 years. We are afraid of wasting your time. After all, learning too much will only make you less proficient. Nangong Chen was a little surprised and looked at him. He didn't expect that this was the reason. Now that death is imminent, you can at least give me a look. Nangong Chen spoke, his face full of anticipation. But Huang still said no. Nangong Chen. He knew that this old man had bad intentions, and nothing he said was true. This is the Huang family's unique secret manual. It is not to be passed on to anyone, not even to the royal family. Huang raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect that this guy was still thinking about his martial arts until now. But soon, he seemed to have thought of something and smiled evilly. If you survive this time, I will allow you to go to the Huang mansion to observe this technique. How about it? Nangong Chen ignored him. What he said was like bullshit. If he could survive, did he still need the other party's permission? He wanted to say something more, but he never expected that the barrier of the void would suddenly shatter with a snap. This also means that the city defense formation is completely ineffective. Chapter 508. The formation fails, the final ultimate of Dragon Tiger Kung Fu. The two men's expressions became extremely solemn. Below, dense swarms of ferocious beasts had already surrounded the entire city wall, leaving no room for escape. In the distance, more ferocious beasts were coming in an endless stream. In the void, the little demon queen's eyes were icy cold, revealing a hint of murderous intent. You like to run, don't you? Now that the formation is ineffective, I wonder where you can run to. She was extremely angry. In the face of absolute strength, she would have killed the mere 100,000 people on the other side long ago. However, they did not expect that the other party was so good at escaping, circling around in this wilderness, and even setting traps in many areas. Although none of them posed any real threat to her, she still felt unhappy, as if she was being toyed with by an ant. She swore to make these humans pay a painful price. Soon, an incomparably terrifying pressure erupted from the little demon queen, enveloping the entire city wall. Beside him, 4 ancient species of saint level, namely the golden sky barbarian bull, the 10,000 poison viper, the black scale eagle, and the swan, were ready to go, with ferocious looks on their faces, staring intently at the people inside the city wall. Just at a glance, one can see the evil aura rising from these ferocious beasts, which makes people feel despair. Nangong Chen's face turned pale. The strength of this little demon queen was so absurd that he couldn't even withstand her pressure. Behind him, the soldiers and the elderly, weak and sick in the wilderness reacted in the same way. But fortunately, Huang was there and lifted the pressure in an instant. Nangong Chen's expression brightened immediately. He looked at the dark mass of ferocious beasts, drew the holy sword from his waist, and said coldly, "Even if it means a fight to the death today, we must make these beasts lose a few pieces of flesh. All soldiers, listen to my command, follow me, and charge. Charge." The sound of overwhelming waves came from the narrow city wall. Even though there are only 10,000 people left in the Tianyuan army at this moment, they still dare to draw their swords against these tens of millions of ferocious beasts. In an instant, the burst of momentum made the ferocious beasts tremble. The little demon queen frowned and wanted to slap these annoying ants to death, but she was locked in place by a breath of air. "What are you looking at? Your opponent is me." Huang snorted coldly, standing in the sky, the halberd in his hand flashing with cold light. Even though he was alone, there was no trace of fear in his eyes from beginning to end, and he had an unstoppable aura. The little demon queen narrowed her eyes slightly, then revealed a sinister smile. "You think you can fight 5 alone? You're not worthy." The four of you, go and slaughter those human ants. As for him, I will torture him slowly. Yes. After hearing this, Jean Tianmaniu and the others responded respectfully, and then cast their cold eyes on the crowd below. Just as the four ferocious beasts were about to go down, a halberd-like light burst out, slashing down like a crescent moon. In an instant, the space twisted and a hole was torn open in the void. Fortunately, the four ancient creatures reacted in time and dodged it. But the ferocious beast below was not so lucky. This ray of light from the halberd directly split the battlefield into two. Countless ferocious beasts turned into blood mist and were killed by this halberd. Even the earth was created with a long, deep crater as long as the horizon. Jean Tianmaniu and others broke out in cold sweat on their foreheads. They could sense that if this blow was to land directly, the head and body would probably be split in two. This old human being has some skills. I told you that the opponent of the five of you is me. Huang Yi spoke slowly, his eyes fixed on them like cold lightning. Lung Rant's words resounded throughout the world. Seeing how brave Mr. Huang was, the Tianyuan soldiers below were like being injected with chicken blood. Although they were only a team of 10,000 people, under the leadership of Nangong Chen, they were no less than 1,000,000 elite soldiers. Like an extremely sharp sword, it shuttled among the ferocious beasts and ruthlessly reaped their lives. Dare! The little demon queen was furious, her golden pupils filled with frost. The next moment, she attacked, her 5 fingers turned into claws, and she slapped down. In the void, it turned into a giant silver claw, instantly tore the void apart, and killed towards Huang Yi. Boundless dragon power bursts out. Facing this move, Huang Yi's eyes became solemn, and he blocked it with his halberd. Boom! The two collided, and lightning flashed. Huang Yi gritted his teeth and held on. The opponent's strength was so great that it was unimaginable. Ha 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 ha! The little demon queen's pupils were filled with excitement and bloodlust. Veins popped on her forehead, and she continued to increase her strength. The dragon claw became more and more terrifying and lifelike. Just heard a click. The halberd in Huang Yi's hand was actually torn off by the little demon queen. His pupils shrank slightly, and he said to himself, "Not good." The next moment, the dragon claw attacked, a line of blood rose, and then Huang Yi's body burst open with flesh and blood. Mr. Huang. Below, Nangong Chen saw this scene, and his heart tightened involuntarily. In the void, Huang Yi's body was covered in blood. There was a horrific scar running from his forehead down to his leg. His bones were exposed, and even one of his eyes was torn apart. Huang Yi's vision suddenly became blurry, but even so, he didn't cry out. He stabbed at the little demon queen with a half-broken halberd in his hand. Even with only one eye left, he can still kill monsters. The little demon queen sneered, as if mocking the other party's ignorance. Half of the halberd landed on the little demon queen's golden armor, leaving only a scratch. Huang Yi's face changed, and he changed his mind instantly. He swung half of the halberd horizontally, trying to tear open the white neck, but the movement stopped abruptly. Swish! The sharp claws pierced through the old man's chest. Blood plasma gushed out uncontrollably, splashing onto the little demon queen's strange face. She licked her lips, revealing a hint of bloodlust. Behind the old man, the black-scaled eagle had cold eyes as it slowly pulled its claws out of the flesh. "Kill! Why don't you continue to kill me?" The little demon queen laughed and grabbed Huang Yi's neck. In midair, blood continued to flow from Huang Yi's body, and just like his life force, it was fading away quickly. On the battlefield, Nangong Chen's eyes were numb, and he could only watch. He wanted to help the other party, but couldn't. There were more and more ferocious beasts around him, and he couldn't stop. Listening to the woman's arrogant words, Huang Yi spat out a mouthful of blood, revealing his bloodshot teeth. "Bah, you little bastard, you finally fell into my trap." He suddenly grabbed the woman's right hand, and his eyes burst into a strong golden light. In an instant, behind Huang Yi, the divine forms of a dragon and a tiger appeared. The two beasts opened their bloody mouths and bit towards the little demon queen's body with even more terrifying power than before. Dragon and tiger kung fu is his last chance. Chapter 509, Let's Be Brothers in Next Life. I will update this chapter with 2,000 more words later. The little demon queen's pupils suddenly shrank as she felt a danger from her soul. She used her hand as a knife and chopped off her right arm without hesitation. Golden blood plasma spurted out, and the white bones were clearly visible. After the little demon queen's right arm was chopped off, she turned and fled. Huang Yi also took this opportunity to murmur to the people below, "Boy, watch carefully. What is the ultimate meaning of dragon-tiger kung fu?" In the sky, the dragon and the tiger, with icy eyes, shuttled between the clouds, relentlessly pursuing the little demon queen. Everyone was stunned. They had never imagined that the little demon queen would not even dare to turn her head after being hit by the old man's move. Soon, the little demon queen seemed to have thought of something. Her pupils flashed with a cold light. She grabbed the black-scaled eagle beside her and, regardless of its panicked expression, stuffed it directly into the mouth of the golden divine tiger. Boom! The blood mist bloomed as she expected. As for the other golden dragon that was chasing after her, the little demon queen didn't hesitate too much. She grabbed the head of the 10,000 poison viper and stuffed it into its bloody mouth. Boom! Another blood mist bloomed, and the two dragon and tiger divine forms completely dissipated. The little demon queen finally breathed a sigh of relief and looked towards Huang Yi, her eyes filled with naked, murderous intent. Her right arm quickly regenerated, and she instantly flashed in front of Huang, piercing his chest with one hand without hesitation. Immediately afterwards, the beating heart was crushed by her. Huang Yi's pupils shrank slightly, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked down and took a last look at the Tianyuan army. There, even though his soldiers were surrounded by ferocious beasts, they still charged forward without fear of fighting. As expected of my soldier, Huang Yi murmured, then closed his only remaining eye with some contentment and died completely. Seeing that this hateful man was finally dead, the little demon queen breathed a sigh of relief. You caused me to lose 2 ancient relics. Letting you die so easily is really a bargain for you. The little demon queen looked at him with disgust and threw the corpse away in disdain. And on the battlefield below, after Nangong Chen had used all his strength to kill a quasi-saint beast, he happened to see this scene in the void, and his mind went blank. Mr. Huang, he gritted his teeth and roared, somewhat unable to believe that the old man who was just chatting and laughing with him died in front of him. Nangong Chen looked at the little demon queen, who was soaring high in the sky. He clenched his fists, and murderous intent in his eyes could not be stopped. He had never wanted to kill someone so badly. The little demon queen happened to meet his gaze, her eyes extremely calm and without any ripples, as if she had killed an insignificant person. She said calmly, Golden Sky Barbarian Bull, Swanee, go and get rid of these remaining ants. Yes. The two beasts nodded in panic and fled downwards without looking back, as if the woman in front of them was some evil ghost from the abyss. They had just witnessed their accomplice from the past few days being used as a scapegoat by this woman, dying in the mouth of the dragon tiger divine form. The cold-blooded look in the little demon queen's eyes made them feel unfamiliar and fearful, fearing that they would become the other party's next scapegoat. Nangong Chen saw the two huge figures approaching and the endless stream of ferocious beasts surrounding him, and a hint of despair appeared in his eyes. Now, after a bloody battle, only 1,000 people are left in the Tianyuan army of 10,000 people. How can 1,000 people resist these ferocious beasts? At this moment, everyone huddled together as if for warmth, panting, their armors already in tatters, and even the weapons in their hands had become a pile of scrap metal. The ground was littered with the corpses of dead beasts, and the flowing blood could form a small river. They had killed enough, a total of 200,000 ferocious beasts, but the number of the other side was too large, and they simply could not kill them all. Thinking of this, the eyes of the remaining people couldn't help but feel numb, and a sense of desolation emerged in their hearts. They had seen too many brothers die here today, as well as those kind-hearted old men in the wilderness. They didn't dare close their eyes to rest, because as soon as they did, they would see the scene of their dead comrades. Soon, the two ancient species, the Golden Sky Barbarian Bull and the Swanee, descended upon the heads of the Tianyuan army. The two ferocious beasts did not hesitate much, with ferocious looks on their faces, and launched extremely terrifying attacks. The Golden Sky Barbarian Bull radiated golden light all over its body, and when it stepped down with its boundless giant hoof, the space was distorted under the astonishing force. The Swanee opened its mouth wide, and a bright beam of light was brewing. This was his natal magic, the light of destruction. Soon, two major offensives came one after another. Is this the end? Nangong Chen murmured, closing his eyes in despair. Mr. Huang, you are not alone on the road to the underworld. I am here to accompany you. At this moment, his mind couldn't help but recall the scene where Huang Yi fought 1 against 5. That dragon tiger skill had killed 2 of the ancient relics. It's a pity that he will never see it again. Everyone, let's be brothers again in the next life. Nangong Chen said loudly, his voice resounding throughout heaven and earth. At this moment, the other soldiers also raised their weapons and shouted with their last bit of strength. Long live the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Chapter 5:10 Nangong Chen arrived. There is a gap between saints. Wait a minute, there'll be no missing words. Seeing the giant palm, covering the sky and the light of destruction about to fall. The remaining Tianyuan soldiers closed their eyes, raised the corners of their mouths slightly, and faced death fearlessly. They were going to accompany their dead comrades and go to reincarnation together. However, the imagined death did not come. There was still a foul smell of blood in the air. Some people couldn't help but open their eyes, and when they looked up and saw the scene in front of them, their eyes suddenly froze. In the void, a huge monster appeared from nowhere. It was as big as a mountain and stirred up wind and clouds when it circled. The whole body is covered with fiery red scales, and a terrifying Taoist rhyme flows between the red scales, exuding an innate noble bloodline. It has 5 claws and 2 whiskers, which make it look majestic even without anger. Its dragon eyes contained a sea of stars. As soon as it descended from the sky, a dragon's might burst out, sweeping across the entire world, making countless ferocious beasts kneel down in submission. However, what was most shocking was that above the dragon's head, there was a figure in snow-white clothes. Just by standing there, he was surrounded by immortal aura, and a terrifying, chaotic green lotus vision unfolded behind him, like a banished immortal who fell into the mortal world. At this moment, the figure standing on the dragon's head held up the sky with one hand, and the air was filled with extremely surging immortal energy, which actually blocked the killing moves of the 2 ancient relics so easily. "You all deserve to die." An extremely cold voice sounded from the void, echoing throughout the wilderness, as if it came from the mouth of an evil ghost in the abyss. After hearing this, the ferocious beasts present couldn't help but feel their legs go weak, and they were frightened to kneel down with a thud. They looked at the giant dragon in the void, their bodies trembling uncontrollably, and they had no desire to resist at all. This feeling of oppression was far more intense than what the little demon queen had brought them. The sudden silence caused more and more Tianyuan soldiers to notice something unusual. They looked into the void and suddenly froze in place. Then strong emotions erupted. "It's the prince. The prince is here to save us. We don't have to die. We held on until the divine dynasty rescues us." On the other side, hearing that extremely familiar voice, Nangong Chen was shocked and opened his eyes with a hint of disbelief. When he saw the snow-covered figure on the dragon's head circling the sky and the earth, his pupils suddenly shrank. "Chenner." Nangong Chen rubbed his eyes, and after confirming that he had not seen it wrong, his voice trembled. "This place is so far away. The divine dynasty has really arrived?" But soon he looked around and found that apart from the dragon and the beast in the sky, there seemed to be no one else. No, it was the formation plate from before. Chenner was teleported here alone. In a trance, Nangong Chen seemed to remember something, and his mind was slightly shaken. Then he clenched his fists, his eyes filled with deep worry. It would be fine if the divine dynasty really came to rescue him, but now, only his nephew came. What he will face are tens of millions of monsters. "Silly child, it's not worth it." He muttered something, his eyes already wet. In the sky, the smell of blood rushing into the sky was extremely pungent. On the dragon head, Nangong Chen frowned slightly, and the murderous intent in his pupils became more and more shocking. Just a glance at the wilderness, there are countless corpses buried in this land, including the soldiers of their Tianyuan army and the old people who were left in the wilderness. They couldn't even preserve their bodies after death, as they were eaten and trampled by those extremely brutal beasts. Only a tattered piece of armor was left. He couldn't imagine how desperate the people of the wilderness must have felt when they faced this flood-like army of ferocious beasts. But fortunately, I managed to preserve the last bit of fire at the last moment. Otherwise, he would be restless. The past cannot be undone. The only thing he can do to make amends is to send these ferocious beasts in front of him to hell to accompany the millions of people who died today to protect the wilderness. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen's eyes turned extremely cold, and he burst out with overwhelming pressure. He retracted his right hand. The sky cleared and the clouds dispersed, and the 2 terrifying killing moves were like nothing in his hands, and disappeared from the world just like that. The 2 beasts, Jintian Barbarian Bull and Swanee, were stunned. They spoke in trembling voices. "Who are you?" However, before the other party could speak, a pressure that was like the world turning upside down suddenly descended upon him. The 2 beasts' faces suddenly changed and turned extremely red, as if there was an invisible force pressing them down. Boom! The next moment, a body as big as a mountain fell from midair and sank heavily into the ground, killing countless ferocious beasts under their command. Suddenly, countless blood splattered. The 2 ferocious beasts were unable to move, their eyes filled with fear as they stared at the snow-clad figure from heaven. They are ancient relics of the saint level, yet there are people in the world who can suppress them and make them unable to move with just pressure. Even the little demon king at his peak couldn't do it. Who was this young man who suddenly appeared? He was even more terrifying than the half-dragon beneath him. Of course, it wasn't just these two ancient species that were suppressed. All the ferocious beasts within a 10-mile radius were pinned to the ground. Some weaker beasts turned into blood mist and died on the spot. The only one who could stand firmly in the sky was the little demon queen. Her face was extremely ugly as she faced Nangong Chen directly. She knew that the other party was deliberately humiliating her. At this moment, millions of ferocious beasts are submitting to this exiled immortal in snow clothes. After seeing this scene, Tianyuan army and others were also greatly shocked, as if they had witnessed the most incredible miracle in the world. Millions of ferocious beasts knelt on the ground and kowtowed. This was the scene they had dreamed of, and now it appeared before their eyes. He is now so powerful, Lan Mo muttered in the crowd, his eyes filled with horror. You have to know that when they first met, the other party was just a god king, and even the quasi-saint had achieved breakthroughs in their wilderness. And now, just with that aura, he can suppress a legion of tens of millions of ferocious beasts and make them unable to move. Beside him, Lan Jia had already fainted and was held tightly in his arms. Is this the prince that the world talks about? Taking advantage of this brief opportunity, Li Shun bandaged Lan Jia's injuries, and then fixed his eyes on the sky with a look of deep admiration. He had heard stories about the prince before, and had originally thought they were exaggerated. But after meeting him in person today, he realized that what was written in the books was actually quite conservative. However, the most shocking person here was Nangong Chen. He had seen him a few days before arriving in the wilderness. Although he knew he had reached the saint level, he didn't know his specific realm or the extent of his strength. I originally thought that he was only slightly stronger than an ordinary saint, but I didn't expect that he was at the top among the saints. There's a huge gap between saints. Today, he finally understood this sentence. 511 Chapter 511 You deserve to die. No one is allowed to kneel. Get up. The little demon queen looked at the ferocious beasts crawling beneath her feet, her veins bulging, her face ashen, and she spoke in anger. How could a human being kneel before her eyes? However, under the overwhelming pressure, the ferocious beasts found it extremely difficult to even raise their heads, let alone respond. After seeing this scene, the little demon empress's expression grew even gloomier. She looked at the snow-clad figure on the dragon's head, and a deep fear flashed across her eyes. The aura emanating from the other person made even she feel a little uneasy. What's more, the half-dragon red dragon's cultivation level is far superior to his own. But thinking about the fact that we are outnumbered and there are tens of millions of ferocious beasts here, even if the two opponents are very strong, we are still capable of fighting. Are you really going to become my enemy for this group of ants? If you withdraw now, I can spare your lives. Her tone was slightly cold, and her eyes were fixed on the other person. She just didn't believe that the other party would not weigh the pros and cons in front of this army of tens of millions of ferocious beasts. Even if the opponent's aura suppressed the ferocious beasts within a radius of 10 miles, the total number was no more than 1 million. You must know that not far behind them, there was still an endless stream of ferocious beasts rushing towards here. When tens of millions of demon troops arrive here, even if the enemy uses all their magical powers, they will not be able to trap such an astonishing number. As soon as the words fell, the figure in the snow-white robe disappeared from the little demon empress's field of vision. She couldn't help feeling a little panicked and looked around cautiously. I told you, you deserve to die. The next moment, a cold voice sounded beside her ear. The little demon queen trembled all over and looked up into the sky. The mighty fist light burst out in an instant, and her eyes suddenly became extremely bright. Blue dragon transformation. Before she could react, runes began to flow on the little demon queen's crystal dragon horns, and silver dragon scales grew on her skin, flashing with a chilling light that made one's heart tremble. At the same time, a dragon's might burst out from her body. When Jin Tianmanyo saw this, he couldn't help but show joy in his eyes. Songlong transformation is one of Songlong's magic techniques. The dragon scales on his body are indestructible and can even be compared to the legendary immortal weapons. According to legend, the ultimate Songlong transformation can even turn one into a real Songlong, traveling the world like a dragon. At this moment, a hint of complacency appeared on the little demon queen's face. A sense of Taoism flowed through her scales, and she was as strong as a divine weapon. She just didn't believe that this person could penetrate her armor. However, soon, the corners of her mouth became stiff. When the fist light came towards her, her body seemed to be pierced by a huge force. Boom! The silver body was like a cannonball, smashing several mountaintops in succession. The dragon's blood soaked the entire blue sky until it fell into a deep pit. For a moment, thick smoke rose up. Nangong Chen's pupils were dim. His feet were stepping into the air, and his white robes were rustling. His eyes seemed to be locked on the figure in the smoke, without giving it any chance. A mysterious Taoist pattern condensed from his pupils. The next moment, the terrifying gaze turned into substance, and a golden spear tore through the void and burst out. The spear was flashing with divine thunder all over, and its speed was so fast that it flattened the 100-foot mountain in an instant. The remaining power did not diminish, and it pointed directly at the figure in the thick smoke. Ever since Nangong Chen entered the realm of saints, he has had a new understanding of the mysteries passed down to him by the girl with double pupils. His strength has also improved, and he can use more of the magic skills of the girl with double pupils. Followed by a shrill scream. The smoke slowly dissipated. The scene that came into view was shocking. In the deep pit, the enchanting woman in golden armor had a distorted expression. Her scales were shattered, and a golden spear pierced her abdomen. She was bleeding profusely and could not move. She could only keep wailing in pain. With one punch and one spear, all her pride was completely crushed to the ground. The pupils of the ferocious beasts present trembled. They couldn't believe that this would be their king. Queen! Tianyuan Nyo lost his voice, his mind going blank. The little demon queen was of the Songlong bloodline and a pure-blooded creature. How could she possibly be nailed to the ground alive by that human? Their king is invincible. The Swanee on the side shouted angrily at the golden sky barbarian bull. Fool! What are you waiting for? Go and save the queen. He knew very well that if the little demon queen died, their chances of winning would continue to decline. Tianyuan Nyo reacted tremblingly, and only then realized that the astonishing pressure had disappeared during the battle. But even so, the cold sweat on his body continued to flow. Swanee, how about we run away? He sent a message to him. Even though the little demon queen was so powerful, she was still suppressed by that human with one move. They couldn't imagine how powerful that young human was. Waste! Swanee cursed him angrily. We have an army of tens of millions of ferocious beasts. Are we afraid of a young boy? That boy must have a treasure on him, which is why he is so powerful. Once we kill him, all the opportunities on him will be ours. Thinking of this, greed flashed in the beast's eyes. After hearing this, Tianyuan Nyo's heart was also blinded by greed, and he said in a voice transmission, What should I do? You lead 3 million ferocious beasts to kill the remaining humans. If I'm not mistaken, those people are very important to this young man. He will definitely be delayed by you. After thinking for a while, Swanee spoke. After hearing this, Tianyuan Nyo nodded without hesitation. What the other party said was right. If the little demon queen died, they would lose their backbone. It could be said that anyone could die, but the other party could not. And now all he has to do is use these hostages to threaten that kid. I just don't believe it. There is no one important to him among them. Soon, the two ancient soldiers split into two groups, and the deafening sound of trampling was heard. Tianyuan Barbarian Bull led a legion of 3 million ferocious beasts and rushed straight towards Nangong, Chen, and others. Meanwhile, Swanee led 7 million ferocious beasts through the wilderness, preparing to rescue the little demon queen. Chapter 5:12 In Times of Crisis, Shao Qi shows his power. Nangong Chen had just recovered from the joy of the little demon queen's defeat when he heard the sound of footsteps as loud as a bell. His face changed, and he looked over suddenly. On the skyline, not far away, a black mass of ferocious beasts rushed towards them. The number of them was unimaginable, enough to make people despair. What's more, at this moment, the only Tianyuan army left on their side that is capable of fighting is only a few hundred people. Looking at those ferocious beasts, their number should be at least over 1 million. A few hundred people against millions. There is no doubt that they will be defeated miserably. All soldiers, listen up. Take up your weapons and prepare to fight the enemy. Nangong Chen showed a deeply solemn expression. If he had not seen wrongly, there were more ferocious beasts on Chun'er's side. His nephew's situation was even more dangerous than theirs. So how could he dare to expect him to save them? The only one they can rely on now is themselves. As soon as these words were spoken, the soldiers who still had the strength to fight drew their swords and were ready to fight to the death. However, just when the group of ferocious beasts were only 100 meters away from them, on the ground, a black shadow that covered the sky and the sun passed by. The vast dragon might turned into substance, sweeping across heaven and earth. Immediately afterwards, endless fire from the sky descended, like dazzling meteors. Not good, retreat quickly. Tianyuan Nyo stopped abruptly. His face changed drastically, and he shouted, He saw clearly that those brilliant flames were clearly meteorites from outer space mixed with terrifying flames. Moreover, that fire must not be an ordinary flame. It is dark red all over. If it gets on their bodies, and there are so many of them, I'm afraid the fire will burn more and more vigorously. However, it was too late. Countless flames fell into the group of ferocious beasts. Boom! The moment the flint fell, it killed large groups of ferocious beasts. It wasn't over yet. The flames could even burn the corpses and even turn them into fuel. The fire was extremely fierce. Brilliant sparks burst out from the battlefield. In the face of the terrifying heat wave, large groups of ferocious beasts turned into ashes. The ferocious beasts fled desperately in different directions, their bodies more or less covered in flames. Little did they know that the more they ran, the more violent the fire would become. Soon, dozens of quasi-saint level beasts were burned alive. Hundreds of thousands of ordinary beasts were reduced to ashes. There was a trace of fire on the head of Jean Tian Barbarian Bull. Just as he was about to put it out, he didn't expect that a black shadow came towards him. Swish! The space was torn apart, and a sonic boom suddenly sounded. It was actually a red tail, as thick as a giant tree, with flames flowing all over it. Even the mountains were broken in half by it, which was enough to show its terrifying power. The dragon's tail swept across the battlefield, and boundless force poured down in an instant. Boom! For a moment, countless blood mists bloomed, and the bodies of ordinary ferocious beasts could not withstand such terrifying power. That giant tail was like a ruthless harvester, constantly reaping the lives of the 3 million ferocious beasts here. The golden sky barbarian bull in the center had no time to react, and its entire body was knocked away, forming a bloody arc in the air. The body of more than 10 meters long, as big as a small mountain, crashed into the army of ferocious beasts and rolled over, crushing tens of thousands of its own kind along the way, and it carved a bloody path before stopping abruptly. At this moment, the golden sky barbarian bull was seeing stars and felt that the whole world was turning upside down. He couldn't even feel his body. He just felt severe pain all over his body. If someone was standing next to it, they would be able to see clearly that both horns of the golden sky barbarian bull were broken, with 2 shocking blood holes and blood plasma continuously flowing out. Not to mention the body, which was covered with dense blood seams, and was no different from being broken. In a trance, Jean Tian Barbarian Bull only felt a gust of wind coming. He looked up and saw a giant dragon appearing in the void, staring at him with cold eyes. Under the pressure of that bloodline, Jean Tian Barbarian Bull's body trembled unconsciously, and even the bloodline power in his body was sealed. He knew in his heart that this was the inherent dignity of a true dragon. You and I are both demons. Are you sure you want to help the evildoers? Jean Tian Man Neo said weakly. He saw the naked murderous intent in the other's eyes. As soon as the words fell, a childish voice sounded. Who is your fellow tribesman? You shameless bastard, don't try to drive a wedge between me and my master. Xiao Qi hummed in his breath, his tone full of dissatisfaction. After hearing this, Jean Tian Man Yo's eyes were filled with shock. What did he hear? This other person, such a noble being, actually recognized a human as their master? Not only him, many monsters also heard it and stood there in a daze, some of them stunned. Seeing their expressions, Xiao Qi's face was filled with pride. Although it was a bit ashamed to be caught at first, after seeing how fast its master has grown in recent days, it can say without hesitation that the other party is the most qualified to be its master. Why, you also want to become my master's mount? I tell you, you wish. Xiao Qi snorted coldly, as if he had thought of something, his eyes filled with hostility. Upon hearing this, the monsters looked at each other and saw the speechless look in each other's eyes. Who the hell wants to snatch the mount position from you? On the other side, the Tianyuan army was also watching the scene. The prince has truly acquired a fine dragon. Someone sighed deeply, with envy in his eyes. With just a flick of its tail, the dragon was able to neutralize the invasion of the 3 million ferocious beast army. The strength of that red dragon was definitely far beyond their imagination. However, not only is he so powerful, he is also so loyal to the prince. It would be a lie to say that I am not envious. Nangong Chen's eyes were filled with passion as he looked the red dragon up and down, muttering something in his heart. It would be so majestic if I could ride such a handsome dragon. I'll see if I can borrow it from that guy someday. But it doesn't seem right. I remember that the old man caught a jiaolong for Chinner, not a red dragon. Nangong Chen seemed to recall something in his mind and was extremely confused. Soon, Xiao Qi, who was not far away, saw that they were silent and thought they had surrendered. He said in a cold voice, "You ferocious beasts, if you dare to be my master's enemy, you will be my enemy. Now go into my stomach and repent." As soon as he finished speaking, The expressions of the monsters present changed drastically, and then they fled frantically behind them. After chatting with this little brat for a while, he forgot that he came to visit them. Tianyuan Yo's face was filled with fear. He watched the dragon's mouth gradually open into a bloody mouth, and his hair stood on end instantly. He seemed to have sensed an instinctive sense of crisis, and he kept kicking his hooves hard, trying to run away, but he could not stand up. Don't eat me. We are the same race. I can be your master's mount. However, it would have been better if he didn't say it. As soon as he said it, Xiao Qi became a little anxious. What? You still want to steal my mount? I'm going to eat you. Go dream in my stomach. Xiao Qi thought to himself, his eyes turned cold, and a dragon's might burst out instantly. The ferocious beasts that were fleeing frantically within a radius of dozens of miles were suppressed by their bloodlines and fell to the ground, unable to move. Immediately afterwards, Xiao Qi's huge mouth, which was like a glutton, looked towards the Jintian barbarian bull first, and a terrifying suction force continued to gather. Tianyuan Yo felt a little desperate. He didn't understand why he had to be swallowed first. He clearly couldn't walk. You will not die a good death. You acted on behalf of the human race, and you will definitely be punished in the future. Tianyuan Yo felt his body rising into the air, and he knew in his heart that he would soon become the enemy's food. When he was dying, he cursed with resentment in his eyes. After hearing this, Xiao Qi was stunned for a moment, and the dragon head tilted. What is karma? Can you eat it? Jintian barbarian bull was completely desperate and too lazy to say anything. He rushed into the bloody mouth on his own initiative. After eating the ancient relic, the golden sky barbarian bull, Xiao Qi's aura increased slightly, but he was obviously not satisfied yet and continued to focus his eyes on the other ferocious beasts. Seeing the red dragon, all the ferocious beasts present trembled in fear, thinking that they could not escape even if they wanted to. Don't eat us, we are innocent. Yeah, we all obey this dead cow, you just eat this dead cow. If you're not full, there are still 20 million monsters in the south of central Shenzhou. That's definitely enough for you. These ferocious beasts begged for mercy one after another, as if they were about to flee when disaster struck. They could even betray the ferocious beasts from the other two legions. Hearing this, little red dragon raised his eyebrows. You're bullying me because I'm uneducated, right? I was captured from southern Shenzhou. There aren't any ferocious beasts there. They don't even have hair, not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Xiao Qi became angry when he thought about being deceived, and the suction force continued to increase. You people, how dare you lie to me? Come into my stomach. Chapter 513. If I don't send you evil beasts to hell, I am not worthy of being the Prince of Tianyuan. The other side, deep in the pit, the little demon queen's eyes were dazed. It wasn't until several breaths passed that the excruciating pain in her body gradually brought her back to her senses. She slowly looked at her abdomen, where flesh and blood were pierced by a golden spear connecting to the ground. She couldn't help but feel a little dreamy. After so many years, someone could actually cause her such serious injuries, and it was a human being. How dare such a despicable race as humans hurt themselves? How dare you hurt me? How dare you hurt me? Smelling the bloody scent, the little demon queen gradually recalled the feelings of the battle back then. A hint of cruelty flashed in the depths of her eyes as she kept muttering to herself. She looked up at Nangong Chen, clenched her 5 fingers suddenly, pulled out the spear from her abdomen, and stepped on the ground. Soon, thanks to its powerful self-healing ability, the bloody hole on its waist slowly grew flesh and blood, and it was back to normal. A hint of cruelty appeared on the corner of her mouth, and her eyes were filled with hostility. You have made an invaluable contribution to helping me regain the fighting spirit of the past. You should feel honored for this. So, to repay you, I have decided to crush your beating heart alive, just like I did to your human saint before, and give you death. There was a strong resentment in the voice, which made the ferocious beast that came over tremble. My king, I'm here to help you. The Swanee who came over also spoke, his eyes falling on Nangong Chen with extremely cold eyes. We are also willing to fight for the king. Seeing that Swanee was the first to express his loyalty, the other ferocious beasts also spoke out, with murderous looks on their faces. When the little demon queen saw this scene, she couldn't help but laugh. There were a total of 7 million ferocious beasts flying in the sky and running on the ground. How could she kill a mere one person? Is it relying on that half-dragon? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but look at the battlefield in the distance, and then her pupils suddenly shrank. The soaring red dragon was actually constantly devouring their army of ferocious beasts. Thousands of ferocious beasts went into its stomach with every bite. I'm afraid it won't be long before all the ferocious beasts on the battlefield will be eaten by it. Looks like we have to fight quickly. The little demon queen gritted her teeth and spoke coldly. Then an astonishing demonic energy burst out and soared into the sky. She looked at the ethereal figure in the void, and without much hesitation, she suddenly took action. On the other side, after sensing the murderous aura, Nangong Chen slightly retracted his gaze, his clothes fluttering as he looked down at the battlefield below. Second uncle and the others have Shao Qi to protect them. Although Shao Qi is not that smart, he is strong enough to protect a group of people. In this case, he can now focus on his attack without distraction. Of course, in addition to watching the battle on another battlefield, he was also searching for someone. That was General Huang, the only saint who came to the wilderness. Nangong Chen had a good memory. He had noticed the list of people sent to Mong Huang by the army on the roster before, and he remembered almost every one of them. General Huang, one of the 8 generals of Tianyuan, is his main focus. But now, he couldn't even sense the other person's breath. Considering what the little demon queen said, it was obvious that she was most likely murdered at the hands of these beasts. Thinking of this, the murderous intent in Nangong Chen's eyes could not stop being released, making the whole world feel cold. Although he had no interactions with the other party, he had heard of his deeds. After hundreds of battles, his body was torn into pieces by his armor, but his loyal heart remained to illuminate the mountains and rivers. His unique dragon and tiger kung fu skills were well known. General Huang has made numerous military achievements for their Tianyuan mansion and their Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Such soldiers who have made great contributions to Tianyuan throughout their lives are now killed in battle to protect the wilderness. Nangong Chen could even imagine the other party's despair and helplessness at that time. You have to know that he was the only saint in the wilderness at that time, and he would have to face all the powerful ones of the entire demon clan. Call. If only it had come sooner. Nangong Chen took a deep breath, clenched his hands, and his pupils flashed with a terrifying cold light. He muttered to himself, "If I, Nangong Chen, don't send you evil creatures to hell, I am unworthy of being the crown prince of Tianyuan." Swish! The next moment, the dragon claws flashing with silver light tore through the void and suddenly came rushing over with boundless demonic energy. Under the moonlight, only a flash of cold light flashed by in an instant, so bright. Seeing that this move was about to tear the man's head into pieces, a hint of bloodthirsty excitement appeared on the little demon queen's face. However, soon her face froze. At the moment when the dragon claw was about to fall, the figure in front of him disappeared in an instant, and he hit nothing. Then, she felt a dangerous aura coming from behind her. "Little demon queen, be careful behind you." Not far away, the Swanee who had rushed over shouted anxiously. But it's too late. Those slender 5 fingers had already grasped the little demon queen's neck, lifting her into the air. The little demon queen's face flushed crimson as she stared intently at the young man in the snow-white clothes before her, using both hands to struggle hard to break free from his arms. Before long, the little demon queen felt somewhat hopeless. She has the blood of the dragon clan and is extremely powerful. Even though she used all her strength in her arms, she couldn't even pry the human's arm apart. It was simply outrageous. She couldn't believe how terrifying the body of the young man in front of her was. "Let go of me." The little demon queen gritted her teeth as the feeling of humiliation continued to surge in her heart. The murderous intent in her eyes was so intense that she wished she could cut the person in front of her into pieces. After struggling desperately for a moment, the little demon queen gave up. She coldly threatened, "Vile human, do you know who I am? Put your filthy hands down immediately, or you will never leave this wilderness again." She was sure that the other party would not kill her. After all, she was the woman of the little demon king. In that era, no force dared to provoke them. Even though generations have changed, she believes that the Xiantian realm in this world will surely become the possession of the demon clan, and she will still be the queen of the demon clan. Seeing that he hadn't moved for a long time, she thought the young man had given up. The little demon empress sneered and became even more arrogant. "Aunt, I'll give you a chance to pledge allegiance to the demon clan. Put down your filthy hands. When the time comes, I can slowly torture the forces behind you and your family, leaving you with nothing but your lives." Bang! There's only a crisp sound of slapping. The whole audience was silent. Chapter 514. One person can stop thousands of troops. The little demon queen's hair was disheveled. Half of her face was sunken, and blood was constantly oozing out. Her eyes were dazed, as if she had not yet reacted. After a while, her mouth opened slightly, blood plasma flowed out of her mouth, and a few loose bloody teeth rolled down. "If you're anxious to die now, I might be able to help you," Nangong Chen said coldly, the murderous intent in his eyes soaring into the sky. Nangong Chen didn't want to let such an evil person die so easily. He wanted to trample all of her beliefs under his feet and destroy them. At this moment, the dense black shadows in the void stopped. If you look closely, the black shadow is actually a powerful beast among these ferocious beasts that can float in the air, including the Swanee. After seeing the little demon queen being treated like this, their pupils suddenly shrank, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. The little demon queen was actually slapped by a human. They even managed to capture the little demon queen alive. Fear gradually emerged in their eyes. That was the little demon queen. This human must be crazy. If today's incident were to get out, given the little demon king's personality, he would definitely kill them. Hurry and save the little demon queen, Swanee said in a trembling voice, commanding the ferocious beasts present. After these words were spoken, the ferocious beasts present gradually came to their senses, their eyes filled with uncontrollable rage. How dare this man humiliate their king like this? In an instant, the dark shadows had surrounded Nangong Chen tightly. On the other side, the little demon queen slowly regained consciousness after seeing the boy's cold eyes. Immediately afterwards, her body began to tremble continuously. She couldn't imagine why someone in the Xiantian realm would dare to kill her. She's the little demon queen. Isn't she afraid of death? At this moment, the little demon empress had disheveled hair. One side of her face was sunken, and she was silent. From a distance, she looked no different from a beggar on the street. She didn't dare to say anything more. She was really afraid that her life would be gone. She could feel the palm strike just now. The opponent did not hold back at all. If it was an ordinary ferocious beast, its head would probably be beaten into a bloody mist. This person is a complete and utter lunatic. The little demon queen clenched her fingers tightly, thinking with immense fear in her heart. Not long after, the surrounding monsters began to speak up, wanting to rescue the little demon queen. Quickly put down the little demon queen, or you won't be able to escape the wilderness today. That's right, quickly release the little demon queen. The little demon king is no match for you. Before the little demon queen was rescued, these ferocious beasts did not dare to attack rashly, for fear of endangering the little demon queen's life. Chinner, don't listen to them. Don't let this evil creature go. This woman has a vicious heart. She was the one who killed General Huang just now. Inside Nangong Chen's robe, the formation plate moved slightly, and a voice suddenly came out. This person was none other than his second uncle, Nangong Wentian. After hearing this, Nangong Chen turned his head slightly and saw that on another battlefield, Tianyuan army and others were looking at him nervously. In it, he even saw his second uncle holding a corpse in his arms and sobbing softly. If I'm not mistaken, that corpse is most likely General Huang's. Of course, if you're surrounded by those ferocious beasts, you can also take that evil creature hostage and retreat. In short, don't let it go unless it's absolutely necessary. She is the basis for your attack and retreat. Second uncle's voice sounded again, his voice twitching a little. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, his heart warmed. He could sense the deep worry in the other person's tone. I understand. Nangong Chen responded simply before putting away the formation disc. He then looked towards the little demon queen, his eyes flashing with a bone-chilling coldness. The little demon emperor's heart tightened and cold sweat broke out, as if she was being stared at by some ferocious beast. There's something strange about the other person's eyes. Every time she looked at it, she felt extremely uneasy, as if her soul was about to be devoured. The next moment, she saw those strange eyes, which suddenly burst into a fiery light, like the gaze of a god. The little demon queen trembled all over. In the sky, thunder sounded, like the ringing of a bell. A vortex bloomed from the dark clouds, emitting astonishing pressure and spreading dim light, as if some terrifying existence was about to descend into the world. All the ferocious beasts present were frightened by this aura. They stood there in a daze with their pupils somewhat dilated. They stared at the sky intently, their breathing becoming more and more rapid. Soon, from the vortex, divine chains of order stretched out, accompanied by laws, bringing an irresistible supreme aura. Those divine chains stretched downwards, tearing through space and crawling all over the little demon queen's limbs, binding her to the void. The magical instruments on the little demon queen were completely ineffective, and even her spiritual energy meridians were blocked. She looked at Nangong Chen in disbelief, and some fear gradually appeared in her eyes. What kind of magic is this? Nangong Chen's pupils were cold. He turned around, stepped on the void, his black hair flying, and his every move exuded a heart-pounding aura. One person faces an army of 7 million ferocious beasts. The overwhelming aura that came towards him changed the entire sky. The Swanee not far away couldn't help but step back, with deep fear in his eyes. He had never seen a living being that could remain calm in front of an army of tens of millions, and could even overwhelm them with its momentum. Who was this person? A hint of doubt arose in his mind, but he quickly came back to his senses from the suffocating atmosphere. No matter who you are, you will die here today. Swanee showed a fierce look and spoke in a low voice while gritting his teeth. The little demon queen is their backbone and must be saved. They must also kill this boy. With such a young face, he has already displayed such amazing strength, which will definitely become a stumbling block to their demon clan's invasion plan. He wants to eliminate the big trouble in advance and pave the way for the demon clan. Chapter 515, Fighting 7 Million Ferocious Beasts. However, soon, a giant wooden beast's legs softened, and it half knelt on the ground with a bang, covering the hole with its left hand, with some disbelief in its eyes. As the spirits of heaven and earth, although their racial magical powers can unite them, speed up their recovery, and give them terrifying defensive power, they also have weaknesses. The only weak point is their left shoulder blade. There is the central meridian where all magical powers are united and spiritual energy circulates. If it is damaged, it will greatly restrict their actions. What's more, the huge hole has not regenerated for a long time, which means that the beam of light is definitely not simple and can even suppress their recovery. It's stained with the power of destruction. A low, panicked voice was heard, and it was from one of the wooden giants. However, soon his expression suddenly changed, and he felt an immense force coming from above his head. Boom! The mighty fist light instantly covered the entire southern battlefield. The creatures in other battlefields were startled and looked towards the south. Under the vast power, an astonishing gust of wind was set off, sweeping across thousands of miles of yellow sand. In the wind and sand, they vaguely saw an almighty emperor waving his fist on the sky, and a giant elephant shining with divine light stepping on the galaxy. The wind and waves dissipated. In the southern battlefield, even though the ferocious beasts opened their eyes wide, they still couldn't see the 300-foot-tall bodies. It seemed that they had completely disappeared in the sea of sand. Where's the wood beast? Some monsters lost their voices, their hearts full of doubts. But not long after, a ferocious beast trembled as if it had seen a ghost and cried out in shock. Look at that yellow sand. As a gust of hot wind blew, countless corpses gradually appeared on the sea of sand, and there seemed to be a black fire burning on their bodies. Among the charred corpses, it is not difficult to recognize that it is the wood-eating beast. Seeing this scene, the whole audience fell silent. Those 2 million wood-devouring beasts died, just like that. What is the black flame burning on its body? These wild beasts were filled with doubts and looked around until they saw the snow-clad figure standing in the sky. He was still so calm and composed, with even the corners of his clothes not dirty. However, what shocked people the most were his eyes. The pupils overlapped, and there was actually a terrifying black fire flashing. Just looking around made them feel a little uneasy. On the other side, Nangong Chen stood in the void, slowly put away the 9 netherworld fire, and his eyes returned to their previous depth. I have to say that the vitality of this wood-devouring beast is truly amazing. After it took his punch with all its strength and disintegrated, it still had a breath. Fortunately, fire overcomes wood, and the 9 netherworld fire can just restrain the opponent's recovery speed. What's more, this wood-devouring beast is a social creature and likes to gather together. It just so happens that their whole family will be cremated. Nangong Chen thought indifferently in his heart. Even though he had just heard the overwhelming wailing, he did not feel the slightest bit of mercy. When you were killing people, did you ever think that this day would come? On the other side, after confirming several times, Swanee took a deep breath, clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were full of disbelief. Those 3 giant wooden beasts died at the hands of the other party? He knew best the defensive power of the giant wood beast. In the Xintian realm, almost nothing could tear through its skin, not to mention the flesh and blood of the ancient tree, which was as solid as a rock. This is not an exaggeration, but the fact is that even with 2 million wood-eating beasts, this effect can be achieved. And now they're all dead. Swanee almost wanted to vomit blood. This was a huge loss for the entire demon clan. Come together, don't give him a chance. An angry voice rang out in the void. It was the little demon queen bound by the divine chains. Her eyes were filled with rage as she looked towards the 3 remaining ferocious beasts on the battlefield. She believed that if this person had not mastered evil magic, the strange flame would have been able to restrain the wood-devouring beast. Otherwise, he would definitely not be a match for the giant wood beast. 2 million wood-devouring beasts. These are all her hard work. The little demon queen was so angry that she spat out a mouthful of blood and then stared at Nangong Chen intently. This guy's methods are unpredictable. We must not let him fight alone. We must attack him in groups. She just didn't believe that the other party could really kill them all. On the other side of the battlefield, Nangong Chen and the others were initially quite excited, but after hearing the little demon queen's words, they began to show deep worry. I can still deal with one side, but if the other three sides attack together, it will be difficult. At the same time, the ferocious beasts in the north, east, and west all became agitated and rushed towards the figure in the snow-covered clothes, wanting to tear his flesh and blood into pieces. After hearing the footsteps, Nangong Chen turned his head slightly, his expression cold, his eyes flashing, and he murmured, "In that case, let's go together." A small golden sword emerged from his hand, emitting royal aura, and the blade was like a dragon. It was the human emperor's sword. Then, in the chaos, holy swords suddenly appeared, and the terrifying sword power instantly filled the heaven and earth. During this period of time, he had already perfected the 10,000 swords immortal technique, and combined with the samsara sword intent, he comprehended his own original moves. Nangong Chen called it the reincarnation of 10,000 swords. The next moment, a rain of swords hung in the sky, and in the center, a road was opened. These swords are of the quality of holy swords and immortal swords. What amazing swords they must be that can make these swords retreat on their own. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the human emperor's sword in the snow-covered youth's hand suddenly flew up and slowly landed in the center of the sword rain. Immediately afterwards, it burst out with terrifying power like the head of 10,000 swords, and a heart-pounding sword intent slowly rose. That's right, the sword head that these extraordinary qualities are waiting for is the human emperor's sword. Nangong Chen looked towards the group of ferocious beasts closest to him in the north, where countless fire cloud wolves and sky-splitting tigers were running towards him. He had some impression of these ferocious beasts. They were all famous remnants in the Shantian realm, and their main attack was killing. In that case, let's see which is sharper, your claws or my sword. Nangong Chen's eyes flashed with cold light, and his sword energy soared into the sky, like a young master. The rain of swords behind him was awe-inspiring without even being angry, emitting a cold glow. Kill, accompanied by that calm voice. The overwhelming sword light crashed down. Swish! In an instant, the battlefield in the north became like a slaughterhouse, with flesh and blood flying everywhere and blood flowing like a river. 2 million murderous beasts had no ability to resist the cycle of 10,000 swords, and they couldn't even run away. They were shocked to discover that each of these swords carried a strange sword intent. Even if they escaped far away, their bodies would return to their original places after a few breaths. But this is not a big deal. The most outrageous thing is that this sword intent will actually greatly weaken their cultivation. Some quasi-saint sky-splitting tigers who still had some fighting power were preparing to use their claws to resist the holy sword, but they did not expect that when the holy sword came to their faces, it would actually reduce their cultivation to the great power realm. Afterwards, these quasi-saint beasts died completely without any accident. However, the battlefield would not stop. As thousands of swords were launched at the same time, the ferocious beasts on the other two sides also attacked. Nangong Chen had anticipated this. While controlling the rain of swords, he turned his head slightly to look. To the east, the sand dunes are wriggling, and there is no human figure, but it brings an astonishing sense of solemnity. Nangong Chen's double pupils moved, and a faint light shone. He looked towards the ground and saw countless poisonous beasts hiding in the ground, rushing towards him quickly, ready to give him a fatal blow. Nangong Chen practiced the Dao immortal scripture, and immortal energy surrounded his body. When his eyes opened and closed, light flickered, and his whole aura reached its peak. Only when the great Dao immortal scripture was in operation and the chaos seed green lotus phenomenon appeared, could he call upon the spiritual energy of heaven and earth on such a large scale to ensure that he had sufficient spiritual energy. If we take out one of these ferocious beasts, it would be easy to deal with them. But the current situation is that the yellow sand here is filled with densely packed poisonous beasts for who knows how many miles. What he wants is not to kill a bunch or a group, but to kill them all, leaving no one behind. A green light flashed in Nangong Chen's eyes. Immediately afterwards, a white jade Qilin phantom appeared around him. In just a moment of its birth, the terrifying supreme beast power swept across the entire battlefield. Nangong Chen stepped into the air, terrifying ripples appeared in the sky, and the Qilin roared. "Get out here," he said coldly. Chapter 516. Boom! The earth shook and the mountains trembled. In an instant, the poisonous beasts hiding in the sea of sand were blown away and fell to the ground. They looked at each other and saw the horror in each other's eyes. How did they come out? However, before they could think about it, the void was torn apart, and a terrifying calamity light descended. The robbing light contains the domineering aura of the ancient ferocious beast. This is the magical power of the Qilin magic. Qilin suppresses the sky. On the sand dunes, whenever the calamity light fell, countless purple gold dragon pythons and human-faced scorpions would explode with flesh and blood, turning into blood mist and dissipating. In the face of this calamity light, all struggles were in vain. The aura suppressed these poisonous beasts and made them unable to move. They could only watch themselves perish. Seeing this, Nangong Chen retracted his gaze and slowly looked toward the last place, the west. The flying beasts were like dark clouds pressing down on the area, covering the sky and the sun, bringing people an incomparable feeling of suffocation. Among them, there is also a strange-eyed crow that can control illusions. According to legend, as long as you look into its eyes, you will be enslaved by the strange-eyed crow's illusions. At this moment, there are quite a few of these strange-eyed crows, a total of 200,000. If these 200,000 different eye crows were placed on an ordinary battlefield, as long as the illusion could be successful, they would be able to defeat even a million-strong human army. What's more, there are those shadow birds that can hide in the void. Nangong Chen's pupils were dim, and he slowly raised his head without a trace of fear. Now is the time to invade his consciousness. An anxious voice came from the flying beast. Then a crow with two eyes, one purple and one green, rushed out, its eyes shining, and it seemed as if an invisible mental force was released towards Nangong Chen. Nangong Chen's Human Emperor Heart Sutra started to work on its own, shattering these mental attacks. Soon, seeing that there was no reaction on Nangong Chen's face, one of the shadow birds was overjoyed. It seems that the invasion of divine consciousness was successful. Then he glanced at the battlefields on both sides below and said anxiously, "Quickly create an illusion for him and make him stop." As soon as these words were spoken, an eerie silence fell. I waited but failed. An older heterochromic crow said tremblingly, "What?" The pupils of the shadow bird shrank slightly, and it was a little bit disbelieving. In a trance, he seemed to hear the sound of thunder and lightning. He turned around slowly, and, after seeing the scene in front of him, he fainted. The dome had already turned into a sea of thunder at some point in time, with the purple sky divine thunder accumulating power in it, like a giant dragon with its bloody mouth opened wide, giving people a great sense of oppression. Run! Birds are timid by nature, and after being stimulated by this, they turned around and fled. All of a sudden, 2 million flying beasts scattered. "Can you escape?" A calm voice suddenly sounded, and it was particularly clear in this world. Nangong Chen was surrounded by a sea of thunder, his eyes flashing with cold lightning. He looked down at them and slowly uttered a word. "Destroy." The words fell. The purple divine thunder poured out from the sky, like a hungry tiger out of a cage, biting the flying beasts madly. A divine thunder descended, and a blood mist bloomed. The smell of blood instantly reached the sky. At this moment, thousands of swords appeared in the north, the Qilin tribulation light in the east, and the purple sky divine thunder above the head in the west. All of them were like the god of death, reaping the lives of countless ferocious beasts. After Nangong Chen finished doing all this, a hint of fatigue flashed in the depths of his eyes. Today's battle was a bit too exhausting. However, he did not take it to heart. He turned his head to look at Meng Huang, his eyes slowly closed, and murmured, "The prince has avenged you." The other side, Swanee stared at everything in front of him in a daze, a little crazy, muttering to himself, "It's gone, everything is gone, ha ha." He never imagined that the young man could single-handedly defeat their army of 7 million ferocious beasts. His heart was broken. In his early years, he was bullied by humans and driven to the wilderness. His biggest dream at that time was that the demon race would rule the entire 3 states in the future, never be bullied again, and kill all the arrogant humans. Why are the demons hated by everyone since birth, while the human race has all the opportunities in the world? He has been striving for this ambition over the years. After knowing that the 2 kings had revived, he was the first to bring his entire clan to join them. But I didn't expect that in the end, all my efforts would be in vain. This young man who suddenly rushed to the wilderness tore his plan and the great cause of the demon clan to pieces, leaving no trace of fantasy. King, do you see this? We are destined to lose. No matter what era, heaven always sides with humanity. My demon race has long been abandoned by heaven. Swanee's eyes were filled with tears, and he knelt on the ground, roaring heartbreakingly towards the sky. Every word he said was filled with deep despair and unwillingness. Why? Why on earth is this? Before the last syllable of the question faded away, a blinding golden light split the sky. Puff! A small golden sword accurately pierced through the head of the Swanee, and blood and brain matter splattered instantly, dyeing the scorched earth beneath it red. The last gleam in Swanee's eyes quickly died out, leaving only solidified resentment and confusion, and the unfinished roar was forever choked in his throat. Nangong Chen had a blank expression on his face as he slowly drew out the human emperor's sword. Looking at the huge demon body that was rapidly losing its life in front of him, his voice was low and hoarse, suppressing his immense anger. Why? Why did those creatures that were slaughtered by your demon race die? It is amazing that heaven stands on the side of humanity, erasing the contributions made by countless predecessors in the long history of humanity. Not to mention that today, the Tianyuan army struggled desperately to gain a glimmer of hope. Before long, the wailing sounds around the battlefield gradually weakened until they disappeared. Looking around, the place was a sea of blood and corpses, like a purgatory on Earth, with surging blood energy rising to the sky. This also means that today, tens of millions of ferocious beasts have completely died. Nangong Chen took a deep breath and looked at the little demon queen who was bound by the divine chains of order with cold eyes. It's time to settle the accounts between them. Chapter 517. The little demon queen dies and the battle ends. In the void, the little demon queen looked at everything in front of her in disbelief. The cold touch of the chains on her body told her all the time that all this was not a dream. She couldn't believe that the millions of troops she led today were killed by just one man and one dragon. Her eyes were a little dazed, and she seemed to still hear the desperate roar of Swanee from before. How could heaven not be on the side of our demon race? How is that possible? I don't believe it. The little demon queen muttered for a while. Her face twisted and she clenched her teeth. Swanee, you are such a waste. You dared to disrupt the morale of my demon army before you died? If I had known this would happen, I should have killed you the moment you surrendered. She seemed a little unsatisfied and cursed again. It's a pity that Swanee can never hear it again. Seeing the figure she hated so much slowly approaching, the little demon queen forced herself to remain calm. She knew that the winners would be the kings and the losers would be the bandits. The other party was just here to humiliate her and see how she would react. She absolutely cannot let this human succeed. Kill me, and the king will avenge me in the future. The little demon empress expression was calm, but her voice was trembling. Nangong Chen shook his head slightly, his pupils dim as he looked into her eyes that were filled with fear. Do you really think he can avenge you? After these words were spoken, the little demon empress began to lose her composure, a hint of despair flashing in her eyes. Just one person could destroy an entire army, and she wasn't even a match for him in a single blow. She had never seen such a terrifying force before. Although the king is strong, can he really resist such a monster? She had a premonition that the demon race would most likely be destroyed by this man in the future. Just kill me. The little demon queen closed her eyes and spoke slowly. She knew that her hands were stained with the blood of many humans, and the other party was destined not to let her go. All arguments were meaningless in the face of death. Nangong Chen sneered. I said, I won't let you die so easily. Immediately afterwards, a crow with heterochromic eyes trembled forward, looked at the little demon queen, and said in a trembling voice, My king, I'm sorry. At this time, the little demon queen's spiritual power was blocked by the divine chain. Apart from her powerful physical body, it can be said that she was basically no different from an ordinary person. After these words fell, the little demon empress' heart trembled, as if she had guessed what the other party was going to do, and her expression gradually darkened. Get out of here. What qualifications do you have to control me? However, the strange-eyed crow seemed not to hear it, and flapped its wings slightly, and a faint light gradually burst out from its pupils. The little demon queen stood there in a daze, the divine chains all over her body shattered at this moment. She slowly raised her right hand, and the sharp claws on her 5 fingers flashed with cold light, which was chilling. Swish! The sound of tearing flesh suddenly rang out. Blood splattered everywhere. The little demon queen's right hand actually pierced through her own chest. At this moment, the beating heart was held tightly in her hands. Don't want. The little demon queen seemed to have thought of what was about to happen, and her face gradually became panicked. However, the opposite happened. The more she didn't want something to happen, the more it happened. She suddenly grabbed with her 5 fingers, and the beating heart turned into blood mist. The light in the little demon queen's eyes quickly faded. Before she died, she took a deep look at the young man in the snow-white robe. Soon, the thin body fell like a kite with a broken string and disappeared from Nangong Chen's sight. Sir, look. Seeing this, the crow with strange eyes smiled flatteringly and looked at Nangong Chen. However, before he could finish his words, he was beaten into a bloody mist by Nangong Chen. He was tired and too lazy to say anything or to make any excuses. He looked towards another battlefield, where Shaoqi had also devoured the last demon, and his dragon belly was bulging. Nangong Chen glanced at the corpses strewn across the ground, shook his head slightly, and flew towards another battlefield. The other side, looking at the young man in snow-white clothes returning covered in blood. The eyes of Tianyuan army and others were filled with shock and respect, and they couldn't help but salute spontaneously. We welcome the crown prince back in triumph. No one expected that such a young person could perform such a feat today. It was like a miracle. Single-handedly, he destroyed an army of 7 million monsters and even killed the little demon queen, a core leader of the monster clan. To the human race, the other party's achievements are unparalleled. Nangong Chen was also performing a military salute. His eyes were extremely dazed. He never expected that his nephew, who had asked him to go with him to propose marriage, had grown up to this point now. In the crowd, Lan Mo sighed deeply, looking at the figure in snow clothes, as if he had returned to the day when the other party saved the Wuling clan, turned the tide, and saved Daxia from collapse. He's truly a monster. He looked at Lan Jia, who was unconscious in his arms, his eyes full of complexity. After this, he would definitely let his grandson join the Tianyuan army and follow the other party with all his strength. Even if he couldn't catch up, he could still look up to the other party from afar. He had a premonition that the other party would sooner or later become a big man who would dominate the 9 heavens and 10 domains. A true dragon could not be trapped in a small quagmire. No need to be polite. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, looking at the Tianyuan soldiers who died in battle on the ground, with a sad look in his eyes. Nearly 100,000 Tianyuan soldiers were buried forever in this desolate land, or died in the belly of the ferocious beast. If he could have come earlier, maybe everything could have been saved. Soon, after the brief excitement faded, what greeted them was endless sadness. The Tianyuan army present were quietly cleaning up the battlefield and doing post-war work. Some people saw familiar corpses and couldn't help twitching, making very low sounds. They were soldiers and couldn't show their most vulnerable side. Too many people died in this battle, and too many familiar people will no longer exist. For a moment, the atmosphere was extremely depressing. Nangong Chen watched silently, clenching his fingers. Soon, he felt a warm hand on his shoulder. Chinner, this is not your fault. You don't have to blame yourself. You tried your best. If you hadn't teleported here today, I'm afraid we would have all perished here. Nangong Chen said softly. He knew that his nephew was still young and had not experienced as much as he had, so it was extremely necessary to enlighten him. Seeing that he remained silent, Nangong Chen looked up at the sky and continued. War is so cruel. People die in every battle. This is inevitable. The souls of the dead return to their hometowns, while the living continue to live with their will. If Mr. Huang and his men the 9 Springs saw you being so brave and slaying millions of demon soldiers to avenge them, they would surely be filled with pride and leave with a smile on their faces. They won't blame you for being late, because their lifelong wish is to protect the Divine Dynasty and make it prosperous and healthy. With a prince like you in the Divine Dynasty, they will definitely feel relieved. They believe that you can definitely do it. After saying that, Nangong Chen smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in the depths of his eyes. He was not all sad about Mr. Huang's death. He was probably the one who had known the other person the longest here. In the future, I will put an end to all enemies of the Divine Dynasty and ensure that there will be no war in the Divine Dynasty forever. At this moment, a calm voice sounded. Nangong Chen turned his head to look. As the night faded, the dawn slowly rose in the east, shining upon that handsome face. Nangong Chen had a calm expression, his black hair fluttering as he looked up at the 9 heavens. His eyes were firm, emitting an indescribable confidence. Soon, a green light flashed across the sky above East Shenzhou at an extremely fast speed. But the whole thing was still seen by someone on the street. For a moment, everyone was talking about it. Hey, I remember that at noon today, Confucius led his army to Zhongshenzhou. How come he came back so soon? It said that something went wrong in the wilderness. Now everyone in the city is talking about it. They say that a 1,000,000-strong army has attacked the wilderness, and there's an extremely terrifying demon, some little demon queen. Hearing this, everyone gasped. Little demon queen, isn't this the figure from the era when the demon clan ruled the Xiantian realm? He is a famous ancient monster, and according to rumors, he is even stronger than the geniuses of the hidden families. Yes, I remember the crown prince just conquered Monghuang a while ago, and the troops haven't even been sent there yet. Why are they being attacked so hastily? Someone scratched his head, puzzled. No, my brother is in the army. He told me a little bit that the demon tribe is launching a surprise attack. A young monk made a gesture and then whispered. When these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. The young cultivator continued. It said that the Monghuang army only has 100,000 soldiers, while the demon tribe has tens of millions. When King Tianyuan heard this news, he was furious and sent 2 Saint Kings and 1,000,000 elite soldiers to support them. There's even gossip that General Nangong Chen is also in the wilderness. After the words fell, everyone looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Support? This place is quite far from the wilderness. I'm afraid it will be too late. What a pity for General Nangong Chen. He died so young. No wonder Confucius passed away so quickly at noon today. I saw he wasn't in a hurry to recruit disciples. So there's a reason for this. But what happened to that Confucius who just returned to the Divine Dynasty? Could it be that he has killed all the monsters in the wilderness? Someone was puzzled and whispered. This question hit the nail on the head. No one understood what was going on. Even the young monk whose brother was a soldier shook his head. Inside the palace, Nangong Yu and Nangong Chen kept walking back and forth, looking very uneasy. Tell me, how can you, as a father, look after your son and your brother? The more Nangong Yu thought about it, the angrier he became. His eyebrows raised as he scolded him with a look of disappointment. One is missing, and the other is now dead and missing. Such a big thing, and you're telling me now? Nangong Chen naturally didn't dare to refute. He just stood there and took the scolding with guilt deep in his eyes. Shuro was also here, kneeling on the ground, trembling and not daring to speak. He was actually the main person responsible for the prince's disappearance, but the old mansion master and others did not blame him. No, I want to go to the wilderness myself. Suddenly, Nangong Yu became more and more worried, and seemed to have made up his mind and said something. Nangong Chen did not stop him. If possible, he also wanted to leave, but he couldn't leave. If he left, the entire Divine Dynasty would be in chaos. Just as Nangong Yu was about to leave, an old Taoist figure riding a green bull suddenly appeared in front of the two of them. Kong Daoyan, didn't you go to Mong Huang to provide support? Nangong Zhan's eyes widened and he asked in disbelief. Nangong Yu also stopped. Kong Daoyan was breathing heavily, and after a few breaths, he stopped. He slowly recounted what happened in the wilderness. After a few breaths, a shocked voice sounded. What did you say? Nangong Chen, along with Shao Qi and his beast, killed a legion of tens of millions of demon beasts in the wilderness. Nangong Chen said in disbelief, looking at Kong Daoyan. Even Nangong Yu and Shuro were shocked. Kong Daoyan nodded and tremblingly said, Yes, your majesty, the most significant contribution goes to the crown prince. He single-handedly killed 7 million main forces, even slaying a demon as famous as the Little Demon Empress, a demon renowned in ancient times. The words fell. There was silence in the palace. 7 million monsters killed by one person. What does this mean? This is something that even the Saint King cannot do, not to mention killing them all at once. You didn't lie to me, did you? Also, how did that kid get there? Nangong Chen couldn't believe it and confirmed it again with some doubt in his eyes. After hearing this, Kong Daoyan wanted to swear an oath to heaven to prove it to them, but was quickly stopped. He could only give up helplessly and said, According to General Wentian, the prince was teleported over via the formation plate that General Wentian gave him earlier. There was a hint of realization in Shura's eyes. So that's it. He said that when he found that Nangong Chen disappeared, only that mysterious aura remained. It turns out that he was walking through a formation. This is too risky. One man and one dragon are going there like this. Luckily, I brought Shao Qi with me. Nangong Yu also said with some emotion. I had a good eye for the red dragon I caught back then. But it's a pity that Huang Yi, one of the 8 generals of Tianyuan, died in the battle. Even the army lost nearly 90,000 people. It's a good thing Chen left in time. Otherwise, even the last bit of fire wouldn't have been left. Nangong Chen said softly, with a hint of sadness in his expression. Oh, right, the Crown Prince also said that we must do a good job of cleaning up the mess after this battle, and we must treat the families of the soldiers who died in the battle well, especially General Huang and his men. Kong Daoyan seemed to remember something and said seriously. Nangong Chen nodded. He knew this without being reminded. However, the other party used too definitely in his words, which must be Chen's strong intention. Chen has grown up. Nangong Chen thought to himself, his face showing some relief. Soon, he nodded and said, Okay, I understand. I will definitely not treat these soldiers who died fighting for the Divine Dynasty unfairly. They are all the dragons of my Divine Dynasty. By the way, did Chen say when he would be back? Nangong Chen looked at Kong Daoyan. Kong Daoyan shook his head. The Crown Prince will stay there for a while. He said he wants to set up some formations to prevent such problems from happening again in the future. He slowly took out an exquisite array plate and handed it to the other party. Oh, right. This is what the Crown Prince asked me to give to your majesty. He said that if there is anything urgent, you can summon him from this formation. Nangong Chen treated it as a treasure, nodded heavily, and put it away. Okay, I understand. If there's nothing else, you can leave. After he finished speaking, Kong Daoyan bowed and disappeared from the spot with Qingyao. Shura, You should ask the Ministry of Culture to publicize this event so that the entire 3 states will know about the prowess of our divine dynasty crown prince. It's time to prepare for that. Nangong Chen seemed to have thought of something and spoke slowly. Yes. Shura also bowed and quickly disappeared. Chapter 518. Meeting at Zhuaxian Pavilion. News from the wilderness. On the other side, Chu City, Zhuaxian Pavilion. In the void, powerful figures appeared. They looked solemn, and without stopping for too long, they rushed straight to the Zhuaxian Pavilion, as if something big was about to happen. Hiss! Why are there so many important figures descending on Chu City today? Outside the door, a passerby was confused and asked in confusion. Passersby also gathered together and looked over there curiously. A waiter from Zhuaxian Pavilion spoke in a low voice, his tone mysterious. You don't know this, right? Something big happened in the south. So the pavilion master specially closed the pavilion today and asked these important figures to come and hold a meeting. As soon as these words were spoken, they immediately caused quite a stir among the crowd, and everyone started to speak. Something big has happened. Could it be the demonic invasion that's been rumored lately? That's not right. There are forces guarding both borders of central Shenzhou. If something serious really happened, why hasn't there been any news until now? Yes, one is the Broken Sky Rift Valley, where the 8 great Huangfeng families have guarded it for generations. The other is the wilderness. Although it has been taken over by the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty, they will not leave it alone. Everyone made some frightened inferences, as if trying to comfort themselves. But soon, someone spoke up. Don't you know that someone in the east saw the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty army crossing the void today, rushing west quickly, seemingly in the direction of the wilderness? The man continued, with a look of aftertaste in his eyes. That scene, according to what my experts said, it was like a heavenly army passing through, with countless powerful warriors. After the words were spoken, everyone present looked at the person who had spoken. Is what Dao said true? Someone said in disbelief. If even the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty has dispatched so many troops, then the demon invasion is very likely to be true. At the same time, on the top floor of Zhuaxian Pavilion, as the last figure stepped into the hall, it meant that representatives from more than 350 forces in central Shenzhou and northern Shenzhou had finally arrived today. Chu Yin slowly sat down on the main seat. She had a beautiful face, and her eyes contained a hint of spiritual light. Taoism flowed between her snow-white skin, and she exuded a powerful aura. This young and beautiful face stands out among this group of elderly people. After feeling this, the people present looked at each other, seemingly shocked. They had long heard that the head of the Chu family had gone mad, and the position of head had fallen to his daughter Chu Yin. I originally thought it would be a joke for a genius to be the clan leader, but I didn't expect that Chu Yin, at such a young age, had actually broken through to the quasi-sage level. This did suppress the dissatisfaction in some people's hearts. After all, strength is a solid status in the Xintian domain. This could be considered a local prodigy of the 3 states. Apart from that inhuman monster with double pupils, this is the first prodigy to break through to the quasi-saint level. He is truly a true genius. No wonder, in the Xintian list, Chu Yin, a woman, was able to squeeze into the 2nd place, which was indeed well-deserved. However, this also confirmed a rumor that Chu Yin had obtained a great opportunity in the immortal treasure, which was not false. Thinking of this, everyone's eyes flickered, and no one knew what they were thinking. An old man present looked at Chu Yin and said, I've long heard that Saint Chu is angelic and incredibly powerful. Seeing her today, it's true. At such a young age, she's become the head of the Chu family, and has also broken through to the quasi-saint stage. Her future is truly extraordinary. I just wonder if it would be too much pressure for Saint Miss Chu, a single woman, to lead a clan. If possible, my Lin family is willing to send our son to marry her. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of the others changed instantly, with some regret in their eyes. Yeah, how could they forget about this? Now that the other party is in her prime, it's a good time for marriage. In the first position, Chu Yin, with her delicate features, glanced at the wretched old man. A hint of disgust flashed across her beautiful eyes, but she didn't show it. She said calmly, Today, I'm calling on everyone to come here to discuss how to resolve the monster issue. As for other matters, I'll leave it to Chief Lin to discuss later. As the clan leader, his cultivation level is not as high as hers, but he wants his descendants to marry into her. She doesn't know where this person gets the confidence from. The Lin clan leader naturally heard the rejection, and a hint of shame appeared in his eyes, but due to the other party's strength, he held it back. A young kid who was only wet behind the ears and sat on the position of clan leader, by luck actually dared to reject me. That's right. Let's discuss the rest of the matter in private. The demon invasion is the major issue that everyone should be concerned about. In the second position, Li Sanghai spoke lightly and also said something on behalf of Chu Yan. The matter of a demon tribe is so urgent that they asked us to come here. Could something have happened? On the other side, Zhao Lei, the Holy Lord of Heavenly Sword, also spoke with a hint of curiosity in his eyes. Seeing the two most powerful beings here speak, everyone suppressed their other thoughts and stopped talking. Chu Yan looked at them with a hint of gratitude, and then her beautiful eyes were filled with deep solemnity as she spoke. News has come from the Broken Sky Rift Valley that the 8 great families were brutally massacred by demonic beasts. We found the only survivor. He said that the Broken Sky Rift Valley was attacked by 2 groups of demonic beasts. After a few breaths, Chu Yan finally finished telling all the information he knew, and his mouth was a little dry. The whole audience was silent. Saint Lady Chu, no. Chief Chu, each of those demon beast armies has tens of millions of troops. There are even 5 saint-level descendants and 15 quasi-saint beasts in charge. Some people could no longer sit still and stood up, some saying in disbelief, "Are you deliberately trying to trick me?" The others also looked at Chu Yan, frowning slightly. This number is so huge that it is hard to believe. What's more, it came from a girl's mouth. Chu Yan smiled slightly, as if she had expected them to say that. She slowly took out a projection stone, and then pointed with her bare hand, sending a ray of spiritual light into it. Soon, the projection stone showed the tragic situation of the 8 worlds of Huangfeng at that time. After one stick of incense, everyone's pupils shrank. Even if they didn't believe it in their hearts, they had to believe it at this moment, because the evidence was already in front of them. How is this possible? How could the monsters organize such a large-scale invasion? Among the aristocratic families, a patriarch lost his voice. The others were also silent. Even those from the Li family or the 4 holy places, all those who came this time had deep fear in their eyes. With just a legion of monsters, they dare to guarantee that no force here can stop them. Not to mention the number, even the high-end combat power cannot compare. No wonder the 8 great Huangfeng families were destroyed. I'm afraid they wouldn't even need 2 legions of monsters. One would be enough to slaughter them all. After hearing this, Chu Yan's eyes also showed a trace of horror, and she said softly, "Why would they organize such a large-scale invasion? Of course, someone was behind it. Someone in the south once saw a strange man in golden armor among the beast army. He had an extremely terrifying aura and 2 golden dragon horns on his head. He looked like the little demon king who appeared a few epochs ago." These words fell. It was as if thunder had struck everyone's heart, and it took a long time for them to react. The little demon king was the top demon when the demon emperor ruled Xiantian realm. However, he was called a demon in that era, but in this era, he would be an invincible saint. Even if all the powerful saints present were added together, they would probably not be able to defeat the other party. After all, they still remembered the horror of the fallen sun god's son, and they dared not underestimate this kind of monstrous saint. Anyone who underestimates it may end up like Chu Shanha that day, suffering a great loss without knowing the consequences. They're not that stupid. What about the little demon queen? Rumor has it that she and the little demon king coexist. If one appears, there's a strong chance both will appear. Has anyone seen one? Over at Howard Pavilion, Elder Xiong asked with a serious expression. Chu Yan shook her head slightly. "I haven't seen her, but that doesn't mean she hasn't appeared." A strong member of the clan speculated that she should have brought the 3rd demon beast army to the wilderness. Everyone present was speechless. What should we do? The southern part is now occupied by 2 demon beast armies led by the little demon king. They may attack us soon. If the wilderness is lost, those evil beasts will attack us from both sides. The entire central Shenzhou and the northern Shenzhou will fall. Over at Qilin Pavilion, the old sect leader said with some despair. Some time ago, the Tianji Pavilion predicted that the Xiantian territory would experience a major upheaval. Could this be what they were referring to? Wang Qi, the patriarch of the Wang family in Chucheng, seemed to remember something and murmured. After hearing this, the expressions of the powerful people present became extremely gloomy. Obviously, the situation predicted by Tianji Pavilion is turbulent, and there is a high probability that the 3 states will fall and the little demon king will take command of the entire Xiantian realm again. This Tianji Pavilion is such a jinx. They want a lot of good results, but this is the one. Someone said coldly. Central Shenzhou is a vast territory. If we want to truly enter the heartland of the human race, it will still take a lot of time. The only important thing now is the wilderness. The wilderness is the closest to us. It won't take many cities to kill us. After Zhao Lei thought for a while, he spoke. Everyone nodded in agreement. That's right, if Meng Huang was lost, there would be no hope for them in Xiantian territory. Meng Huang, didn't I remember that it was handed over to the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty for protection some time ago? Someone's eyes flickered and he spoke. But soon, people from the lower level began to speak up, looking somewhat dissatisfied. Let them guard it? They are far away in central Shenzhou. How can they guard it? How can they care about the people in central Shenzhou? They might have withdrawn to the wilderness long ago. Yes, but for such an important matter, why didn't you inform the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty in eastern Shenzhou? Chief Chu, do you think we can stop those monsters alone? Or is it that the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty thinks they are not from the three states and don't want to help us? Some people also pointed the finger at Chu Yin, using sharp words. Everyone remained silent because they didn't know what Meng Huang's attitude was. After hearing this, Chu Yin felt a little unhappy, but she still patiently explained. Things are not what you think. I have already sent people to contact the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. They said they will not attend this meeting, but they will take action if the monsters invade. These words fell. After hearing this, the crowd's anger did not subside, but became even more dissatisfied. You believe such official rhetoric. Chief Chu, you are too naive. I think the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty must have known the news long ago and had their people withdrawn from the wilderness long ago, regardless of whether I live or die waiting for them. And they're the most powerful force in the world today. Bah, this is the situation. There were more and more voices of dissatisfaction. Chu Yin held her forehead with a headache, not knowing what to do. After hearing this, Li Songhai frowned slightly and snorted coldly. Stop talking nonsense. How much glory has the Double Pupils won for the Xintian territory? Do you think you can easily judge the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty? Zhao Lei also spoke up, crossing his arms and saying, whether they come or not is their freedom. If you have the ability, go to the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty and invite them here. Why make things difficult for a little girl? After the two saints finished speaking, the voices finally died down. They were just talking, but they certainly wouldn't dare to ask the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty to come over. In this day and age, who would dare to mess with them? Alas, I know that ancestrally and Saint Lord Zhao have some connections with the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. No, to be more precise, they have connections with those with double pupils. But in the face of such a major event, they shouldn't be so protective. As the most powerful force in the human race today, the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty should express its stance. Not to mention, they gave Chief Chu such an ambiguous answer. It's obvious that they have given up on us. There was also an old man who calmed down and spoke slowly. Li Songhai and Zhao Lei's expressions finally eased a little. They remained silent, with some disappointment in their eyes. Yes, now that the demon tribe is about to invade, as the overlords of Xintian Domain and the undisputed sealing of Xintian Domain, they should help out a little, even if it is just to gain some reputation. At this moment, even if they wanted to say a few words to help him, they didn't know where to start. Chu Yin was also silent, having the same thoughts as the other two. But soon, there was a knock on the door, bringing everyone back to their senses. A simple and honest middle-aged man walked in. Everyone recognized him as the owner of Zuaitian Pavilion. He looked harmless, but actually had a lot of experience. He seemed to have something urgent to do, so he quietly walked forward and whispered a few words into Chu Yan's ear. Chu Yan's face changed color instantly, and her pupils shrank slightly, as if she had heard something incredible. What? The little demon queen led an army of demonic beasts to invade the wilderness, and millions of ferocious beasts were all killed by a single person with double pupils. The little demon queen also met a tragic death at the hands of someone with double pupils. Chapter 519. News came out, and the three states were shocked. Just as the powerful people on the top floors of Zuaitian Pavilion were in shock, the streets and alleys outside the gate were also in turmoil. Just recently, news came from the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty that a legion of tens of millions of monsters was attacking Meng Huang, while the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty only had 100,000 troops stationed in Meng Huang. Tens of millions? What is this concept? I'm afraid it can wipe out any top human force without any effort. Not to mention, the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty only had 100,000 soldiers stationed in the wilderness. This number was already a lot in the war of the human race. But facing these tens of millions of ferocious beasts, I am afraid that they would all be killed or injured. Just when everyone thought that the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty was here to announce that the wilderness had been broken and the ferocious beasts had entered the pass, they did not expect that the most shocking thing was yet to come. The 100,000 soldiers of Tianyuan defended the wilderness for half a day and even killed nearly 1 million ferocious beasts. It can be said that they have achieved the ultimate. One of the saints, Tianyuan, even killed 2 saint-level ancient relics while fighting 1 against 5. But it is a pity that the last Tianyuan saint died in the wilderness, and there were only a few of the 100,000 Tianyuan soldiers left, with only more than 1,000 people left. As soon as this news was released, the hearts of the cultivators in the 3 states trembled, and they were all touched. They didn't expect that, in a place they couldn't see, the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty had lost so many heroes in the battle to protect the wilderness and the human race. 100,000 soldiers killed 1 million ferocious beasts. This is an impressive record of 1 person against 10. Not to mention, the deceased Saint Tianyuan was able to kill 2 of them when he was fighting 1 against 5. They could obviously leave, but they still stayed in the wilderness and fought to the death. This is what moved people the most. When someone heard this, their eyes turned red and they gritted their teeth and said, "The Tianyuan army is really awesome. Anyone who says anything bad about the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty in the future will be an enemy of my Lu family." My Spirit Sword sect is also like this. It is a great blessing for our race to have these troops guarding the wilderness. The army of the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty will not tolerate any insults from others. Everyone was extremely excited and felt sad and angry for the dead Tianyuan soldiers. At the same time, a hint of despair emerged in their hearts. Needless to say, they could all guess what happened to the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty later. The remaining soldiers of the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty also died in the wilderness, and the wilderness was completely invaded by the demon clan. Millions of demon beasts have occupied the wilderness, which means that it won't be long before they can penetrate into the heart of Central Shenzhou. The next target of the demon beasts will definitely be the cultivators from the 3 states, without a doubt. There are tens of millions of demonic beasts, and even so many ancient species. How can we resist them? Someone's eyes were lifeless, and he fell to his knees with a thud, his face full of despair. Not to mention these independent cultivators. Even some families with a little background are discussing the strategy of migrating their entire clan. However, not long after, the envoy from the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty revealed what happened next in Monghuan. But when everyone heard this, their pupils suddenly shrank, as if they had heard a miracle. Just when 1,000 soldiers of the wilderness were about to die, the man with double pupils came riding a dragon. With just 1 man and 1 dragon, they actually slaughtered all the millions of soldiers. It is said that even the little demon queen died at the hands of the one with double pupils. This is simply unbelievable. You have to know that there are millions of demon beasts, and that is the little demon queen, one of the most powerful demons in the ancient demon race. If this matter was not of vital importance, I am afraid everyone would doubt the authenticity of the matter. For a time, countless cultivators from the 3 states were shocked by the power of those with double pupils. It is rare to see such a sudden silence between heaven and earth. After a long time, someone slowly spoke. It is a blessing for our race that someone with double pupils was born. He is probably not the first person in history to single-handedly fight against an army of millions. If I were his age, I wouldn't even be able to kill one of those millions of monsters. A person with double pupils is just too monstrous. After this battle, those with double pupils will be recorded in the annals of human history, forever honored and immortalized. There were also cultivators who joked, "It seems that the strength of those with double pupils must be higher than mine. Can you tell me something that everyone doesn't know?" Everyone rolled their eyes at him. Of course, there were also a small number of people who caught on to those 1 or 2 words and spoke with a hint of doubt. The one with double pupils rides a dragon. Where did the dragon come from? Don't we remember that the mount he commands is not a Jiaolong? Do you really believe that a genius like him can kill tens of millions of monsters? I don't believe it. In my opinion, it's all the dragon's credit. The Tianyuan Divine Dynasty is just exaggerating. Yes, even the saints of their Tianyuan only died in exchange for 2 ancient relics, but he killed them all. It's truly unbelievable and unheard of. However, these monks soon encountered public anger, and many people fought back. Who cares how many people with double pupils we kill? It's your turn. Can you do it? If it weren't for them, we might be eaten by monsters tomorrow. Yeah, you're so ungrateful, aren't you? People like you are cheap. You'll regret it when you're about to die. If I had known earlier, those 100,000 Tianyuan soldiers shouldn't have died. I should have let you guys go up. After these words were spoken, those who had previously clamored that it was fake did not dare to say anything more and could only lower their heads and walk away. Just when everyone was rejoicing, not long after, another piece of bad news came, instantly extinguishing their joy. It turned out that the tens of millions of monsters heading to the wilderness were just one of the forces in this general attack by monsters. There are 3 legions of ferocious beasts in total. The remaining 2 legions have already destroyed the 8 great Huangfeng families. It is estimated that they will be able to kill them in half a month. The most shocking thing is that the leader of these monster armies is actually an ancient monster of the demon clan, who is known as the Demon King, the Little Demon King. None of these forces and families are as brave and powerful as the one with double pupils. If those 20 million ferocious beasts really come to attack, I am afraid that the entire 3 states will be devastated and rivers of blood will flow. Thinking of this, the monk from Sanzhou trembled, His mind went blank, and he didn't know what to do. Chapter 520, The Little Demon King's Fury. At the same time, in the southern part of central Shenzhou, the 8 great Huangfeng families. Inside the luxurious human palace, the walls were stained with blood, and the ground was covered with numerous severed limbs and arms, blood and flesh dripping. There were even human skulls chopped off and used as wine jugs for fun. Ancient species of various races gathered here, all looking at the domineering figure sitting above with extremely fiery eyes. TSK, how vulnerable the human race is. My demon race didn't suffer much loss, yet they slaughtered all 100,000 of them. What a despicable species. The little demon king drank the human blood from the wine pot and said with disdain, I don't know how you were suppressed by the human race and forced to hide in the far west. As soon as these words were spoken, all the ancient species present laughed awkwardly. Someone flattered him. That's right. Our king has not yet revived, so we dare not act rashly. Only with our king leading us can we feel at ease. We won't obey anyone else. Many ferocious beasts nodded. This is indeed the case. They did think so, but the monsters were used to fighting among themselves, so how could they identify a true king, let alone one who could lead different monster tribes? This is simply impossible. The truth is just as they said. If you hadn't appeared, the demon race would never have been unified, and you were born the king of the demon race. We all believe that you will lead us to rule the entire Xiantian realm. An old voice sounded. The person who was speaking was a black-robed figure on the left side of the little demon king. He was hunched over and squinted his only remaining eye. His eyes were very deep, and his aura was as deep as the abyss, making it impossible to see through his strength. This person was none other than the priest of the demon race. It was said that he had fought with an extremely powerful human being and lost one of his eyes. The beast's eyes were somewhat fiery. Before the little demon king was born, if there was anyone whose words could make them not doubt and way obey, it was only him. The priest was powerful and good at divination. He knew many secret methods that they did not know and helped them a lot. Gradually, they began to respect each other. The little demon king nodded with some satisfaction, seeming to enjoy their flattery. When he first learned about the existence of the other party in the demon clan, he was a little afraid and tried to test him several times. However, he finally found that this person really had no intention of competing with him for the position and was respectful every time. Although he never reveals his true appearance, one can tell from his aura that this priest is also a demon. Since they were of the same clan, he felt much more at ease. He is smart, strategic, knows a lot, is powerful, and is submissive to him. He is a little mysterious, but he does not mind. He is still very satisfied with this kind of talent. According to your plan, our 2 legions have occupied the 8 great families of Huangfeng, and the demon queen on the other side should have occupied wilderness by now. So what should we do next? The little demon king looked at the priest and spoke. The priest shook his head slightly. No rush. Let's wait for the little demon queen to send back a message, to avoid any unexpected incidents. The little demon king frowned. If there was one thing he was dissatisfied with about the priest, it was that he was too indecisive. No wonder the other party can only be inferior to others all his life and can never become a king. He is really a waste. The little demon queen leads an army of demon beasts, while the human race in the wilderness has only 100,000 men. What kind of accidents could possibly happen? But even though he was unhappy, he didn't say it directly. Forget it. Let's just wait and see what unexpected things happen. However, not long after, a messenger crow flew in from outside the hall. The voice is extremely shrill. King, this is terrible. Something unexpected happened to the little demon queen. They're all dead. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of the ferocious beasts present changed. What did you say? The little demon king stood up, his eyes filled with disbelief. The priest beside him looked up with a hint of surprise. The crow took a breath and slowly said, the little demon queen and her companions were about to take over the savage land, but suddenly a powerful young human appeared, riding a fire dragon, and completely annihilated the little demon queen's army. The words fell. The hall was silent. The little demon king's face changed drastically, and boundless pressure came crashing down. The other ferocious beasts also showed disbelief, lowered their heads, and dared not breathe. The little demon queen and the others were actually killed by humans. You know, there are 10 million of them. Who among the human race has the ability to destroy an army of 10 million? Who is it? The little demon king's eyes were red, and he was furious. The terrifying, murderous aura was about to solidify into substance. This person is none other than the current human race genius #1 on the Xiantian ranking, Nangong Chen. He is known as the one with double pupils and has the support of the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Crow knelt on the ground and said quickly, boom. The little demon king slapped the messenger crow into a bloody mist, then slumped on the throne, closed his eyes, and dared not accept it for a long time. It is enough to show how angry he is at the moment. The other beast didn't dare to make a sound. After one stick of incense, the little demon king shed 2 lines of blood and tears, and burst out with overwhelming power. Pass on my order. All troops, attack. Rush to Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Kill Nangong Chen, and avenge the demon queen. Yes, all the monsters dared not disobey and knelt down in response. No, and at this moment, the priest spoke, standing out among the audience. The priest looked into the little demon king's dragon eyes and was shocked, but he still explained. My king, I know that the demon queen's death has infuriated you immensely, but as far as I know, the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty is far away in eastern Shenzhou. They are extremely powerful and a human force that absolutely cannot be underestimated. They are the overlords of the human race today. And that person with double pupils is even more gifted. Some time ago, he killed the fallen sun godson who was born a while before you. If we attack rashly, we will suffer great losses. Upon hearing this, the little demon king suddenly clenched his fingers, his palms covering the head of the sacrificer. His face was grim. Do you know what you're saying? My little demon queen is dead. Even though the breath of death came from above, the priest did not panic at all and continued. King, I didn't mean to say I won't take revenge. I mean I will take revenge, but not now. We can first occupy central Shenzhou and northern Shenzhou, and then launch an attack on their eastern Shenzhou. Or we can ambush them in central Shenzhou and wait for their attack. Either way, it will be more effective than a rash attack. Or if you, your majesty, are still not satisfied, I can use divination to kill the people close to that person with double pupils in central Shenzhou, so that he can also feel the pain. The little demon king remained silent, his eyes flickering, as if he was pondering the feasibility of this plan. He naturally knew the geographical structure of the Xintian realm. After all, their demon race had ruled it in previous eras. Dong Shenzhou is indeed some distance away from here, and what the other party said is not without reason. He closed his eyes, clenched his fists, and the 2 dragon horns on his head emitted a cold light. Seeing this, the priest didn't waste any words. He took out a staff and muttered some secret spells. The staff gradually emitted a faint light. Soon his eyes lit up, but he cursed in his heart. How come all the important people of the man with double pupils are in Tianyuan Divine Dynasty? And in central Shenzhou and northern Shenzhou, there are only a few people who are connected. But even so, he pretended to be excited and said, King, the divination has revealed that the boy is indeed among the people of Zhong Shenzhou. He has many important people, including the Li family, the Chu family, the Tianbao Pavilion, and so on. We can use this to lure the boy here and set up an ambush in advance. The little demon king then pulled his hand away and snorted coldly. I'll give you one last chance. If you fail this time, I will kill you and then destroy the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. A hint of displeasure flashed in the depths of the priest's eyes, but he still said respectfully, yes. Chapter 521. The Movements of Z Family and Others. The Reconstruction of Monghuang. A few days later, Qixing City, a city located at the foot of the holy mountain of astronomy, has always been a place where scholars discuss philosophy. At this moment, a group of uninvited guests arrived outside a luxurious restaurant. These people were dressed in purple robes, with a Taoist charm flowing through their bodies, their eyebrows flying and dancing, and their every move exuded an aura of superiority that made people dare not look directly at them. Who are these people? Inside the restaurant, a cultivator's eyes showed horror, and he whispered. Everyone around shook their heads. They had never seen this group of people before. But everyone knew in their hearts that the power behind this person was probably terrifying. My lords, what would you like to eat? How many tables would you like to reserve? First come, first served. An enthusiastic young waiter came forward and greeted them. After the words fell, the people of Z family remained unmoved. Instead, a disciple walked out, his eyes filled with arrogance, and said in a cold voice, We are the hidden Z family. Clear the place for us. We have booked the entire restaurant. Also, no outsiders are allowed to come while we are eating, and you are not allowed to disturb us. When these arrogant words were spoken, the monks present were all annoyed. But soon, they began to sweat coldly. Are they from a hidden family? The waiter was also a little shocked. He didn't expect that these people had such a great background and were actually from a secluded family. Sir, according to the rules of our restaurant, booking a private room requires advance reservation. Also, you need to pay a deposit before clearing the venue. He seemed to remember something and explained tremblingly. After hearing this, the disciple of Z family glanced at him sideways. Don't you understand what I'm saying? I said we are a hidden family. In an instant, the waiter felt a surge of pressure. His face turned extremely pale, and his legs became unstable. Perhaps hearing the noise in the building, a middle-aged man in a yellow robe came out. He quickly pulled the waiter behind him and said with a smile, "Sir, he's new here and doesn't know much. If you want to book the whole place, we'll clear it out for you." Seeing that they were about to be driven away without even finishing their meal, these monks were somewhat unhappy. "No, Manager Su, we mean, we've all paid, but these people haven't even paid, and you're kicking us out?" "That's right, Shopkeeper Su, you can't just say whatever these hidden families say. I'm afraid they can't even afford to pay." Dissatisfied voices rang out one after another. When the people from the Z family saw this, they didn't feel embarrassed at all. Instead, they looked at them coldly with a threatening look. However, not long after, a handsome young man walked out from the Z family. He wore a purple crown and was surrounded by mysterious energy. His aura was astonishing, and there was a sense of nobility between his brows. He took out 3 top-grade spirit stones, pretended to be generous, and threw them into the hands of the middle-aged shopkeeper in the yellow robe, saying lightly, "Keep the change, please." After receiving it, Shopkeeper Su showed a hint of embarrassment, but he still accepted it. However, the monks on the other side witnessed this scene with their own eyes, and smiles appeared in their eyes. "This is hilarious. With just 3 top-grade spirit stones, he wants to book the most prosperous restaurant in 7-star city. Is he kidding me? With this little money, I'm afraid I can't even afford a table. Ah ha ha. Are you still pretending to be a beggar?" When these words were spoken, everyone in the Z family was stunned, and then their faces turned red as if they were holding back something. Z Yunsheng stopped, and his face looked calm, but his fists were actually clenched tightly. What a crappy restaurant. It can't even afford 3 top-grade spirit stones. Shopkeeper Su was very considerate and quickly said with a smile, "That's enough. Booking the whole place is no problem at all. You are so generous, young master." Then he turned around and gave the young waiter a look, asking him to clear out the restaurant. The young waiter understood and set off. Soon, several dissatisfied voices were heard, but they were suppressed. "What? I spent nearly 10 top-grade spirit stones on this table, and he only spent 3. Are you going to kick me out? Double the spirit stones as compensation? Oh well, no problem. I'll be leaving first. I'll take the money, but I still want to remind you that your Tianyuan restaurant should not entertain poor people in the future, so as not to lower your status." Although these sounds were small, Zi Yunsheng still heard them. Zi Yunsheng smiled, seeming to be very satisfied with Manager Su's flattery. But soon, he turned around and said to one of the Z family members without any reservation, "Go kill those people and bring their heads to me." A tall young man in a purple robe nodded like a machine, and then disappeared from the spot. Soon, several screams were heard outside the door. Z also came back, with some bloodstains on his robe, and placed several bloody heads on the ground. Shopkeeper Su and the young waiter witnessed the whole process, their faces extremely pale. Just like that, killed. Shopkeeper Su quickly turned to the waiter and said, "Hurry up and call for more help to clear these tables. I'll ask the kitchen to prepare the food." Then, he turned around and said to Zi Yunsheng with an apologetic smile, his attitude very humble, "My lords, please take a seat first. Wait a moment, the food will be served." Zi Yunsheng, the leader, nodded naturally, as if the 3 heads under his feet had nothing to do with him. He said, "By the way, take out a copy of your domain report and have a look." The domain report that Zi Yunsheng mentioned is a document similar to a newspaper that the Tianji Pavilion writes every day to summarize recent events. Many monks from the 3 states would buy a copy to observe every day. After hearing this, Shopkeeper Su also responded respectfully, and then asked someone to bring a few regional reports. He looked apologetic and said, "I'm sorry, we've sold out today and only have these few left." "No problem." Zi Yunsheng waved his hand, picked up a portion, and sat down. Seeing this, the other members of the Z family also found a place to sit. Only Zi Shui was standing there alone, her beautiful eyes dull and her body a little stiff. Seeing this, Zi Yunsheng glanced at Zi Shan and said, "Remove the forbidden spell from her. My sister must have realized her mistake." Zi Shan nodded and injected a spirit stone into the delicate body. It turned out that Zi Shui had been arguing with Zi Yunsheng since the day they left the Jiang family. Zi Yunsheng thought she was too noisy, so he asked Zi Shan to control Zi Shui. On weekdays, he did not allow her to speak and only let her follow behind them. Zi Shui's beautiful eyes gradually brightened up. She glanced around, and when she saw several human heads lying on the ground, her pupils trembled slightly. "You killed someone again?" Zi Shui said in a trembling voice. However, Zi Yunsheng ignored her words. Instead, he looked at the newspaper in his hand and said calmly, "Why don't you guess where this is?" When Zi Shui saw the small archway hanging on the door, she suddenly saw the 3 words 7-star city. Her body trembled, and a wave of bad memories flooded her mind. Sister, I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to leave. You are bad people. Let me go. I'm not the Ziyuan you're talking about. I'm Zi Shui. Back then, she was forcibly taken away by these members of the Z family in Qixing City and has been separated from her sister ever since. Taking me away wasn't enough back then. What are you going to do in the holy land of astronomy? She looked at Ziyun Sheng, her beautiful eyes frosty, and spoke hoarsely. Of course, it's to get you sisters together. I wonder how your sister has developed after so much time. Zi Yunqing's malice was unleashed without mercy. Then he made a gesture to shut up, and his eyes seemed to show some interest and stopped at the center of the document. Interesting. He single-handedly saved the wilderness from danger, slew millions of demon soldiers, and never returned. He's the current #1 prodigy on the Xiantian ranking, the crown prince of the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty, a person with double pupils. This person is #1 on the 3 states rankings. His story is quite well written, and I wonder how much real martial arts he possesses. I hope will pique my interest later. He muttered a few words to himself, obviously not believing what was written there. After all, not to mention the ancient evildoer who killed the little demon queen, just the man and the dragon were already laughable. Where did the dragon come from in this Xiantian territory? But soon, as if he remembered something, his eyes lit up. These days, he had learned about the news about the woman in the portrait. According to the natives, she was none other than the ice phoenix goddess of the So Divine Dynasty. It turns out to be the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. It seems that we have to go to the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty from now on, not only to kill the current #1 genius, but also to meet the so-called ice phoenix goddess. For him, it was like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. But before that, we still need to retrieve something from the holy land of astronomy. Zi Yunqing muttered to himself and fixed his gaze on the empty island. There, buried, is a great opportunity for him. At the same time, in the wilderness. In just a few days, thanks to the reconstruction of the Tianyuan army, the ruins of the past no longer existed. The entire wilderness seemed to be brand new, with a newly built foundation and high walls standing up that shone like black dragons. They were obviously built with excellent materials, and just looking at them was daunting. The water in the moat outside the city is clear, and it gently brushes against the new branches of the willow trees on the shore, creating ripples. There are troops stationed in the city, and the number of patrol guards is much greater than before, led by a quasi-saint every day. Obviously, the military strength of Menghuang today is no longer comparable to that of the past, and is completely moving towards the defense system of the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. But it was less deserted, and the only 2 remaining family mansions were completely destroyed, and the 4 major families of the past had completely disappeared. In the city, a captive base for rare and exotic animals is also being built in an orderly manner. Some scholars have discovered that after that battle, the nutrients in the soil seem to be more fertile. The rare grass that used to take a year to mature now only takes 3 months, which would be said to have greatly shortened the time. Nangong Chen walked on the street and couldn't help but sigh. Every time I come to the wilderness, it changes a lot. The soldiers in the city all saluted the figure surrounded by fairy light. Their eyes were extremely fiery, as if they were seeing a living legend. Nangong Chen nodded slightly and continued walking forward. But soon, a beautiful figure appeared in his sight, and he couldn't help but stop. She was dressed in a black and gold phoenix tail skirt, looking graceful and noble, with a beautiful face revealed beneath her black hair. Master, the materials you need, such as the Skyfire Stone, Water Spirit Crystal, etc., have all been collected. Zhu Ying handed a storage ring to him and said with a little excitement, post-disaster reconstruction naturally requires the construction of a formation. Some time ago, Nangong Chen asked someone to call Zhu Ying over. The reason was simple. He needed Zhu Ying to buy materials for him. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, glanced at the storage ring, and found something wrong. Why are there more? It wasn't just a little more. The materials he needed were 10 times more. Zhu Ying seemed to understand his doubts, blinked her beautiful eyes, and explained. Master, the purple gold card you gave me is truly miraculous. After I took it out at Tianbao Pavilion, I revealed my identity to them and told them what I wanted. Then they gave me the materials very enthusiastically and didn't even ask for money. Looking back at that scene, Zhu Ying felt a little dreamy. These materials are not ordinary things. They add up to at least 1,000 fairy crystals, which is not a small amount. However, he did not expect that the other party would give them all to him. Of course, she knew that all the credit for this was due to the purple gold card given to her by her master. Soon, Zhu Ying took out the purple gold card and handed it to the man in front of her. After hearing this, a strange look flashed across Nangong Chen's eyes, as if he had not expected it. He only knew that the purple gold card Lu Dezhu gave him was extraordinary, but he didn't expect that he wouldn't even charge for 1,000 fairy crystals. No, to be precise, as long as you take this card, it seems that you don't have to pay for anything. Nangong Chen remembered what Lu Daju said in his mind, and his eyes moved slightly. But even so, he wouldn't be so wicked as to empty someone's property. He would just go there occasionally. This kid is quite capable. He smiled and said to himself, from the generous spending of immortal crystals when they first met, to the monthly protection fee he paid later, and now he has even given him a special card. The value of this card is probably difficult to measure in numbers. The price the other party paid for being so generous was simply for me to protect him and prevent him from being bullied by others. Nangong Chen touched his chin. It was not that he had forgotten about this matter, but Lu Daju didn't say that anyone bullied him. Do I have to ask someone to go over and cause him some trouble, and then I go over and act out the show myself? Nangong Chen shook his head. This act was too shameless. Forget it. It will be useful in the future. If someone really bullies me, I can just go over there. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen didn't worry too much and accepted it with peace of mind. Zhu Ying, who was standing by, saw that he was thinking, so she didn't disturb him and just quietly looked at his profile. Soon, a clear voice was heard. Is Gu Mingling adapting well to the Divine Dynasty? Nangong Chen continued walking forward, suddenly remembered something and asked, now I finally have some free time, and I can finally relax and ask about other things. Chapter 522. Jiang family sends a letter to the Holy Land of Astronomy. Zhu Ying was slightly stunned, and then quickly followed the other person's pace. She thought for a moment and said, I can't tell whether she's adapted or not, but every time Asta goes back, she always has a smile on her face. As for daily life, apart from cultivation, he gets along well with Master's maid and has a very good relationship with the court. He has a good personality and is loved by many important figures in the court. What's more, the princess is incredibly gifted, possessing a natural 9th grade twin sword body. After arriving in the Divine Dynasty, her strength has skyrocketed, reaching the peak of the Divine King realm. Currently, she's ranked 4th on the Xintian rankings. Besides you, she's considered the 2nd most talented person in the Divine Dynasty. The Divine Dynasty has even focused on training him, often asking the Tianyuan sword sect sword masters to help him with his doubts. Among the younger disciples, he and the sword sect senior sister Lu Rian are already known as the twin sword masters. Their reputations are illustrious, and they have gained many supporters. Zhu Ying said truthfully, with deep admiration in her tone. A strange color also flashed in Nangong Chen's pupils. Gu Mingling actually has twin sword bodies? The information doesn't seem to mention this, so it seems the Heavenly Sword Holy Land deliberately concealed it. When Zhao Lei asked about it, they just said they had a surprise for him. Unexpectedly, the surprise was here. The twin sword bodies are not simple. They are rare and powerful sword bodies in the long history. It is said that people with this physique often have their sword intent mutate when they reach a certain level of cultivation, and two completely different, yet coexisting, natal sword spirits are born in their Dantian. Don't underestimate these two natal sword spirits. This means that the storage of sword energy origin is twice or even more than that of ordinary sword cultivators. Even the affinity to the laws of swordsmanship is the same. The solid foundation is enough to create a huge gap between ordinary sword cultivators. However, the amount of resources required to cultivate this sword body is enormous, and the breakthrough process is also extremely difficult. Of course, the strength leap of each breakthrough increases several times, which is extremely terrifying. According to legend, if the twin sword bodies are cultivated to the peak, the two sword spirits can eventually merge into one, reaching the supreme realm of one sword creating all laws and one sword breaking all paths. Nangong Chen's eyes flashed, and he suddenly understood Zhao Lei's approach. This physique is too extraordinary. If it is not concealed and leaked out, it will definitely attract the attention of the bigwigs in Xintian domain. At the same time, it will also attract the attention of those enemies of Gu Nan in the past. Wouldn't that mean they have found a treasure? Now he's still 4th on the Xintian ranking. The future is promising. If Zhu Ying hadn't mentioned this, he would have forgotten the list on the list he saw that day. He only remembered seeing the 3 words, Gu Mingling, at that time, but he didn't expect that the ranking was so high. Good. Nangong Chen rarely spoke and praised. If I have time, I will go back to see her often. Nangong Chen added a sentence. Obviously, his attention was not always focused on Gu Mingling's talent. He also kept the previous words in mind. Seeing that her goal had been achieved, Zhu Ying's lips curled up slightly, and she whispered, if the princess knew, she would definitely be very happy. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, as if remembering something, and said to himself, if she were here, they would be more than just the twin beauties of swordsmanship. The voice was so small that Zhu Ying was stunned. What? Nangong Chen shook his head, seemingly unwilling to say more, and then revealed a hint of curiosity. On the Xiantian ranking, which other geniuses from our Tianyuan Divine Dynasty are on the list? And where do you rank? Now that I have some free time, it's time to understand how far the Divine Dynasty has developed. A total of 25 people from the Divine Dynasty entered the Xiantian ranking. Among them, my Divine Dynasty occupied 7 of the top 10. As for me, I am ranked 6th. After hearing this, Zhu Ying stopped dwelling on the question and quickly responded with a fluent response. Obviously, she had already accumulated this information. However, when she talked about herself later, she felt a little unsure. After all, she came to Tianyuan earlier than Gu Mengling, but her ranking was not as high as the other one. Master will probably be very disappointed. 6th? That's not bad. A formation master is not good at fighting, but he is good at assisting others. He can use the formation properly and is no worse than any genius. Nangong Chen glanced at her, his tone encouraging. Yes, disciple knows. After hearing this, Zhu Ying looked calm, but in fact she was overjoyed. Although she had been accustomed to hearing praise from people around her since she was a child, the praise from the person in front of her made her feel more emotional. Tell me about the list of the top 25 people. Nangong Chen spoke as he walked forward. They are Lan Xian, who is ranked 5th on the Xiantian ranking, and Zhou Wan'er, who is ranked 7th. It is worth noting that Su Yao, the second daughter of the Su family, at the age of 16, actually reached the 35th place. After a few breaths, Zhu Ying finally finished speaking, her lips slightly dry. Beside him, Nangong Chen continued walking forward silently, but there was a hint of strangeness in his eyes. When he returned to the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty, his father mentioned it to him. It is said that after Lan Xian came to the Divine Dynasty, he seemed to have awakened an extraordinary physique. The imperial energy gathered in the sky, and the strange phenomenon alarmed the entire imperial capital. It was very similar to the human emperor's body back then. The human emperor body is the name given to the descendants of the human race when the blood concentration reaches a certain level. It is said that descendants with thick blood have the opportunity to return to their ancestral bloodline. It seems that after Lan Xian came to the Divine Dynasty, his body must have been stimulated by the imperial dragon vein, which was able to activate the weak blood in his body. He also accidentally subdued a genius with 9th grade talent. Nangong Chen thought silently in his heart. As for Zhou Wan'er, who ranked 7th, Lu Ruyan, who ranked 8th, and Wang Yuxuan, who ranked 11th, she was not surprised that the 3 women made the list. After all, the skills they practiced were no longer what they had learned in the past, but real immortal skills. Their qualifications are not bad, so it is not surprising that they can be in the top 10. After all, cultivating immortals is all about cultivation resources. What's more, they were showered by the spiritual rain in the past, and their talents were further enhanced. However, the Tenqing fan who followed closely behind was quite interesting. Nangong Chen couldn't help but recall the reluctant expressions of the 2 siblings when they were at the Qing family mansion. Will you soar to the sky after your legs are healed? Nangong Chen was very good at judging people, and at that time he felt that this boy had the aura of a child of destiny. Now it seems that there are some destiny-based protagonists who cannot be rebuilt without destruction. I don't know if the other party can bring him more surprises in the future. With the opportunities of the Divine Dynasty, if he wants to make progress, it will be very fast. If we have the chance to meet in the future, it would be okay for me to grant him some magical powers. However, what surprised him was not these top geniuses, but the latecomers. In addition to these acquaintances, some local geniuses from Tianyuan Academy and Tianyuan Sword Sect also gradually emerged and made it onto the Xiantian list. For example, Lu Ming from Tianyuan Academy is said to be the senior disciple of Kong Daoyan and is ranked 15th. These are actually not difficult to understand. The luck of the imperial dragon vein is enough to give birth to these geniuses. The person who interested him the most was Su Li's sister Su Yao. It seems that he is also a disciple of Kong Daoyan, but at the age of 16, he has reached the 35th position. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen's eyes showed some curiosity. It seemed that he had not seen that little girl for a long time. The last time they met was at the wedding banquet. The girl hid behind Su Li and looked at him timidly. But at that time, I was so focused on the other person's sister that I accidentally ignored it. I didn't expect that he is also a potential stock. There is something about the Su family's luck. Nangong Chen sighed slightly in his heart. Zhu Ying accompanied him all the way. The 2 of them were a handsome man and a beautiful woman, and many people cast strange glances at them along the way. Soon, Zhu Ying seemed to have thought of something and said, Master, by the way, there have been some geniuses with the surnames Zi and Jun appearing on the Xiantian ranking recently. The most outstanding of them is Zi Yunsheng, who recently replaced Jiang Che at number 18. And Jun Wushuang of the Jun family is not far behind either, having already reached the top 20 in just a few days. It is basically confirmed that these two are the geniuses of a hidden family. Nangong Chen paused slightly. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and the surroundings could not help but feel cold. He took a deep breath and said calmly, "Okay, I understand. Are we finally reaching the core area of central Shenzhou?" He has always kept in mind what the Z family has done, and believes that it won't be long before he can make them disappear from this world. So Nangong Chen was not particularly anxious. He was waiting for a suitable opportunity. However, the other party's next sentence attracted his attention. Jun Wushuang. Why does this name sound strangely familiar? The ants that were casually slapped to death in the Nine Heavens secret realm in the past seemed to be Jun Wushuang. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen didn't care too much. He was just a defeated general. Zhu Ying, who was standing by, felt the air was a little cold, but it soon returned to normal. She glanced cautiously at the boy beside her. If I'm not mistaken, it seems that Master has a grudge against someone from the hidden family, but the other party is far away on the other side of Tianhai. How did he provoke the Master? Zhu Ying was puzzled and gave up after thinking about it for a long time. Soon, the two of them walked out of the city. This is the battlefield from a few days ago. The corpse of the ferocious beast has disappeared, but the evil spirit remaining on the ground is still overwhelming. The pungent smell of blood filled the air. Zhu Ying frowned slightly. This was definitely the bloodiest battlefield she had ever seen, bar none. It is hard to imagine how the Master could fight against millions of demon soldiers alone at that time. Zhu Ying glanced at the young man beside her with complicated eyes. Nangong Chen's face was calm, and he didn't react much, his snow-white coat rustling. Immediately afterwards, 36 immortal swords emerged from the void. These were all specially left on me from the inheritance of Tianyuan sect. He stepped on the void and flashed to the center of the battlefield. A magic sword was inserted straight into the ground. In an instant, dense runes spread out and Taoist light overflowed. The remaining 35 immortal swords were placed in 4 directions, forming an encirclement. The 36 immortal swords landed completely and were buried underground. Nangong Chen formed a formation with his hands, his eyes flashing with the rhythm of Taoism, and the terrifying sword intent spread out, raising billowing thick smoke. At this point, the immortal destroying sword formation is complete. However, it's not over yet. The battle is about to start again. Nangong Chen used the same method to summon the materials from the storage ring and set up 2 more formations. I saw a divine chain emerging in the void, with a cold light blooming, accompanied by 2 pictures of yin and yang. The 8-direction immortal locking formation and the yin-yang illusion formation are complete. The 3 formations merge into one. Even if a Saint King steps into the outer periphery, he will lose a layer of skin. If he enters the inner part, he will be killed without a complete body. From now on, there will be no worries in the wilderness. Nangong Chen spoke slowly, a cold glint flashing across his eyes. He did not forget the formation he learned from the formation manual of the Tianjin Holy Land last time. The wilderness is different from the abyss and is much more dangerous. So in order to be absolutely safe, it is necessary to set up these formations. He was very confident that no one in this world could break his formation. If the situation were to happen again like last time, the moment millions of troops stepped in, Nangong Chen would let him know what a slaughterhouse is. There is no way out, and there is no way to resist. Zhu Ying, who was not far away, looked at this scene with a stunned look in her eyes. These 3 formations seemed familiar, and seemed to be recorded in the formation manual, but the feeling they gave her was not that simple. Could it be that Master has improved it? She was already somewhat confused about the levels of these 3 formations. On the other side, after Nangong Chen finished setting up the formation, he took out the Human Emperor's reincarnation disc. Since the end of that day, the Human Emperor's wheel of reincarnation has been flashing continuously. The closer it gets here, the brighter the light becomes, as if it is being summoned. Now, he took it out. He wanted to see what tricks this Human Emperor reincarnation disc was up to. And soon, he saw a shocking scene. The Human Emperor's reincarnation disc glowed with golden light, and an immortal figure emerged. Soon, the figure emitting royal aura opened his mouth slightly, and like a bottomless pit, he madly devoured one soul after another. Nangong Chen was stunned. He seemed to see the souls of the monsters and the souls of the Tianyuan army constantly pouring into that mouth. After an incense stick of time, the movement and the strange phenomenon disappeared. The Human Emperor's reincarnation disc seemed satisfied and flew back into Nangong Chen's arms. At the same time, the monstrous evil spirit also dissipated in the sky, as if returning to the original wilderness. Nangong Chen only felt that there seemed to be many more things in the Human Emperor's reincarnation disc in his hand. But before he could investigate carefully, The formation plate in his arms kept making noises. Nangong Chen took it out with a hint of surprise in his eyes. This was the formation plate he made when he was bored in the Divine Dynasty. It had the functions of remote communication and teleportation. He gave it to many of his trusted people. This includes his own father. But he didn't expect that Nangong Chen would come to him at this time. Nangong Chen's consciousness moved slightly, releasing the restrictions of the formation plate. Soon, several rough voices were heard from among them, with a slightly anxious tone. Son, the Jiang family sent us a letter. The contents of the letter are extremely important, so I'll be brief. After a few breaths, a hint of coldness appeared in Nangong Chen's eyes. The Z family is so tyrannical and lawless that they even dare to force the Jiang family to reveal the whereabouts of Su Li. He took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Thank the Jiang family for me. I'm leaving now and heading to the holy land of astronomy." Well, the Divine Dynasty has already made all the preparations. This time, your grandfather and Shura, the two Saint Kings, will accompany you. You can ride Xiao Qi, and it won't be long before you meet them halfway. By the way, do you need any extra manpower? An extremely reassuring voice came from the array. No need. 3 Saint Kings are enough. Nangong Chen shook his head slightly. He understood the principle of quality over quantity. What's more, the Hidden Z family only has 1 Saint King, and bringing my grandfather and the others along is already enough to give them face. Okay, be careful. With the last sound, the array disc went out. The system sound that had not been heard for a long time suddenly sounded at this moment. Ding. The check-in location has been released, the Astronomy Holy Land. Chapter 523, I'll make up for it later. Nangong Chen's face was calm, and he didn't react much, his snow-white coat rustling. Immediately afterwards, 36 immortal swords emerged from the void. These were all specially left on me from the inheritance of Xianxian sect. He stepped on the void and flashed to the center of the battlefield. A magic sword was inserted straight into the ground. In an instant, dense runes spread out and Taoist light overflowed. The remaining 35 immortal swords were placed in 4 directions, forming an encirclement. The 36 immortal swords landed completely and were buried underground. Nangong Chen formed a formation with his hands, his eyes flashing with the rhythm of Taoism, and the terrifying sword intent spread out, raising billowing thick smoke. At this point, the immortal destroying sword formation is complete. However, it's not over yet. The battle is about to start again. Nangong Chen used the same method to summon the materials from a storage ring and set up 2 more formations. I saw a divine chain emerging in the void, with a cold light blooming, accompanied by 2 pictures of yin and yang. The 8-direction immortal locking formation and the yin-yang illusion formation are complete. The 3 formations merge into one. Even if a Saint King steps into the outer periphery, he will lose a layer of skin. If he enters the inner part, he will be killed without a complete body. From now on, there will be no worries in the wilderness. Nangong Chen spoke slowly, a cold glint flashing across his eyes. He did not forget the formation he learned from the formation manual of the Tianjin Holy Land last time. The wilderness is different from the abyss and is much more dangerous, so in order to be absolutely safe, it is necessary to set up these formations. He was very confident that no one in this world could break his formation. If the situation were to happen again like last time, the moment millions of troops stepped in, Nangong Chen would let him know what a slaughterhouse is. There is no way out, and there is no way to resist. Zhu Ying, who was not far away, looked at this scene with a stunned look in her eyes. These 3 formations seemed familiar, and seemed to be recorded in the formation manual, but the feeling they gave her was not that simple. Could it be that Master has improved it? She was already somewhat confused about the levels of these 3 formations. On the other side, after Nangong Chen finished setting up the formation, he took out the Human Emperor's reincarnation disc. Since the end of that day, the Human Emperor's wheel of reincarnation has been flashing continuously. The closer it gets here, the brighter the light becomes, as if it is being summoned. Now he took it out, he wanted to see what tricks this Human Emperor reincarnation disc was up to. And soon, he saw a shocking scene. The Human Emperor's reincarnation disc glowed with golden light. An immortal figure emerged. Soon, the figure emitting royal aura opened his mouth slightly, and like a bottomless pit, he madly devoured one soul after another. Nangong Chen was stunned. He seemed to see the souls of the monsters and the souls of the Tianyuan army constantly pouring into that mouth. After an incense stick of time, the movement and the strange phenomenon disappeared. The Human Emperor's reincarnation disc seemed satisfied and flew back into Nangong Chen's arms. At the same time, the monstrous evil spirit also dissipated in the sky, as if returning to the original wilderness. Nangong Chen only felt that there seemed to be many more things in the Human Emperor's reincarnation disc in his hand. But before he could investigate carefully, the formation plate in his arms kept making noises. Nangong Chen took it out with a hint of surprise in his eyes. This was the formation plate he made when he was bored in the Divine Dynasty. It had the functions of remote communication and teleportation. He gave it to many of his trusted people. This includes his own father. But he didn't expect that Nangong Chen would come to him at this time. Nangong Chen's consciousness moved slightly, releasing the restrictions of the formation plate. Soon, several rough voices were heard from among them, with a slightly anxious tone. Son, the Jiang family sent us a letter. The contents of the letter are extremely important, so I'll be brief. After a few breaths, a hint of coldness appeared in Nangong Chen's eyes. The Z family is so tyrannical and lawless that they even dare to force the Jiang family to reveal the whereabouts of Su Li. He took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Thank the Jiang family for me. I'm leaving now and heading to the holy land of astronomy." Well, the Divine Dynasty has already made all the preparations. This time, your grandfather and Shura, the two Saint Kings, will accompany you. You can ride Shao Qi, and it won't be long before you meet them halfway. By the way, do you need any extra manpower? An extremely reassuring voice came from the array. No need, 3 Saint Kings are enough. Nangong Chen shook his head slightly. He understood the principle of quality over quantity. What's more, according to the letter from the Jiang family, the Hidden Z family only has 1 Saint King, and bringing my grandfather and others with them is already enough to give them face. Okay, be careful. With the last sound, the array disc went out. The system sound that had not been heard for a long time suddenly sounded at this moment. Ding! The check-in location has been released, the Astronomy Holy Land. Chapter 524, This Prince Protects. He looked quite confident, as if he already had the answer in his mind. The disciples present were also somewhat surprised and looked at him with slightly strange eyes. You thought of it so quickly? Terrible. Rumor has it that the ancestors' purpose in coming up with this couplet was to screen out the geniuses who truly understood cultivation. It seems everyone's aptitude is different, and their understanding of cultivation is also different. Damn it, could it be that our holy land's most precious treasure is going to be taken away by this guy today? They whispered, their voices filled with worry. Sun Changwen looked at Zi Yunsheng with a smile on his face. Oh, it hasn't been long now, and it's about to come? Why don't you think about it for a while longer? No need to think about it. I've already thought of the second line of this couplet. Zi Yunsheng said proudly. Seeing this, Sun Changwen looked at him meaningfully, without saying much. He took out 2 incense sticks and slowly lit one of them. In that case, let the test begin. Within 2 sticks of incense, you can match this second couplet and take the heavenly map away. Sun Changwen announced calmly. Zi Yunsheng looked at the painting on the stone wall with great greed. The scroll was covered with a layer of gray mist, but one could vaguely see an extremely terrifying aura of Tao emanating from it, as if the sky was truly being suppressed within this scroll. The heavenly map was left behind by a powerful being who walked out of the holy land of astronomy in the past. After several eras, no one in the Holy Land could comprehend it. This scroll was too profound and far beyond the comprehension of their level of cultivation. Gradually, it became a heritage item of the Holy Land of astronomy, witnessing the changes of the Holy Land from generation to generation. This is enough to show the importance of this object to the holy place of astronomy. The test left by the strongest man gradually evolved into a legend. The spiritual root conceives chaos, and the breathing of the universe begins in one breath. Throughout the ages, no one has been able to come up with the second line of the couplet. However, he did not expect that today he would be challenged by a genius from Hidden Family. The next moment, Zi Yunsheng looked at the 10 stone statues in front of him and muttered to himself. Spiritual roots give birth to wontons. Breathing in and out the universe begins. He kept repeating this sentence, and suddenly his eyes lit up as if he had found inspiration. Immediately following, Zi Yunsheng coughed lightly a few times. Then his brows lit up, and he said loudly, I've already thought of this second line, a line no one in the history of mankind could have thought of. Just wait and see how this young master obtains this celestial map. Sun Changwen was a little surprised and looked at him uncertainly. I guess I really gave it to him. Then, Zi Yunsheng's voice resounded throughout the Holy Land. The spiritual root is pregnant with chaos. Breathing in and out the universe begins. The Dantian contains the sun and the moon, and the circulation of the heavenly meridians opens up. As soon as these words were spoken, there was an uproar. I didn't expect that the evildoer from this hidden family is so capable. The antithesis of this couplet is quite good. I just don't know how many of these 10 stone statues will light up. Everyone did not dare to be distracted at all and stared closely at the group of stone statues. Zi Yunsheng took in their expressions, and then he also looked forward with anticipation. This was the second line he came up with based on the ideas of others. He just couldn't believe that it couldn't be wrong if so many people came up with it. All I can say is that the person who came up with this couplet does have some understanding of cultivation, but not much. With this thought in mind, Zi Yunxing's eyes became increasingly fiery, as if they had already seen all 10 stone statues shining. But soon, he was stunned and the smile on his face suddenly froze. Of the 10 statues, only one lit up after half a day, and the lit statue cannot be considered to be shining in the true sense because it is constantly flickering, as if it is a little erratic and difficult to make a decision. Finally, even the light of the only remaining lit stone statue went out, becoming extremely dim. Zi Yunxing looked at this scene in disbelief. How is this possible? The second line he worked so hard to come up with, but not a single stone statue lit up? Are you kidding me? Zi Yunxing's face immediately darkened, and he blamed the astronomical Holy Land for the fact that the stone statues did not light up. They must have been behind this. Seeing this scene, the faces of the disciples present turned red, and their eyes were full of smiles. I thought this hidden family's evildoer was so powerful. Turns out it's just this. They were still worried about whether the heavenly map would be taken away, but now it seems that they should worry about whether the other party can light up a stone statue. Everyone in the Z family sighed, as if they were used to it. Their young master has a biggest shortcoming, which is that he can take action, but he has to do it and show himself off. Otherwise, he will feel uncomfortable. Now, even if I take action later, I will still be criticized. Seeing that Zi Yunxing's face was getting worse, Sun Chongwen quickly comforted him. Little friend Zi, if it doesn't work once, maybe it will work a few more times. Is this kid going to regret it? Sun Chongwen felt a little uneasy. The next moment, he happened to meet Zi Yunxing's cold eyes. Old man, today, I will take the person away, and I will also take the heavenly map away. No one can stop me. Zi Yunxing clenched his fists, revealed a sinister smile, and tore off all his previous disguises completely. As soon as these words were spoken, Sun Chongwen and the people in the Holy Land's expressions suddenly changed, as if they were facing a powerful enemy. No one expected that this guy would not even bother to pretend and would openly rob. What if not? Sun Chongwen narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice. Zi Yunxing sneered. If not, then die. I'll give you 2 incense sticks of time to deliver the map and your saint, 1 woman and 1 object, to us. Otherwise, if we exceed this time, everyone present, including the entire Holy Land, will die. After he finished speaking, Zishan slowly walked out of the Z family, followed by 6 powerful saints. Their eyes were cold, and the meaning was self-evident. In an instant, a suffocating pressure like a flood poured down on the entire hall. When the disciples and elders present felt this, their faces turned extremely pale, and their legs trembled like sieves. Some people with weaker cultivation bases were forced to kneel on the ground, suppressed and unable to move. With such a huge gap in strength, they were already filled with despair. Where can they find so many powerful people? On the other side, Xi Meng was protected by Ning Rong behind her. Don't go. There must be a way. Have you seen your sister? If you go, this will be your future fate. They certainly won't be so kind. Ning Rong whispered in an anxious tone. Yes, Saint, you must not fall into his clutches. Believe in the Holy Lord. He will definitely find a way. At worst, we'll die together. The other disciples also spoke up to comfort him. Xi Meng forced a smile and glanced at the silent old man on the platform. Her pretty face turned even paler. She shook her head and said softly, If I go, you still have a chance of survival, but if I don't go, you will all die. Don't forget, I am your saint. For the sake of the entire Holy Land, I must go. Although the words were soft, they were full of determination. On the high platform, Sun Chongwen lay powerlessly on the Holy Lord's chair, his fists clenched tightly. He hates it. I forced him to make a choice back then, and now I have to force myself to make a choice. That feeling of powerlessness came over me again. Seeing that 2 incense sticks were about to pass, Sun Chongwen looked at Zi Yunxing and said coldly, There's no way for me to get the heavenly map out of here. The only way is to figure out the second couplet. How can I get it for you? Can't produce it? Zi Yunxing narrowed his eyes slightly, considering the truthfulness of the other party's words. Since you can't produce it, then you might as well die. But soon he spoke indifferently. Sun Chongwen's expression changed, and he gritted his teeth. If you want to take this heavenly map by force, it will at least reduce its original effect by 50%. Do you really want to do this? Upon hearing this, Zi Yunxing fell into deep thought. Seeing this, Zishan, who was standing by, said with disdain, Young master, stop wasting time talking to them. Just kill them all. We can study on our own. Do you think these ruffians have the same profound understanding as our hidden family? Good idea. How about this? Your saint girl will be exchanged for half of your people. I will only kill half. This is considered honesty and gives you enough face. Yunsheng smiled, looking like he was in a good mood to talk to. When everyone present saw this, they were horrified. You, Sun Chongwon gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with anger. Unexpectedly, even so, people still died in their holy land. Soon 2 incense sticks passed. Under everyone's gaze, a purple figure slowly walked out from the crowd. Shiming was walking alone, her purple hair like a waterfall. At this moment, her beautiful face was extremely pale, giving people a sense of broken beauty. Seeing this, Yunsheng swallowed secretly, his eyes burning with passion. It won't be long before I will have a female slave. Thinking of this, he seemed to remember something, showed a hint of amusement, and asked someone to untie Zishua. This kind of scene must be clearly seen by her, so that she will never dare to go against her again. On the other side, on the high platform, Sun Chongwen looked at Ximeng's back. His heart seemed to be gripped. He murmured, "I'm sorry to you 2 sisters." Seeing that the figure was about to come to their Z family, Yunsheng finally showed an evil smile and said, "Everyone, you can take action now and kill all these people." As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of the people in the holy land of astronomy changed instantly. At this moment, a cold voice sounded from the hall, like thunder from the ground, ringing in everyone's ears. The holy land of astronomy, this prince will protect it. Chapter 5:25, Xiansheng's fall. The holy land of astronomy, this prince will protect it. The void in the hall was torn apart, and 4 figures slowly walked out of it. The leading young man was dressed in snow-white clothes, with fairy light surrounding him and a small red snake lying on his left shoulder. He had an ethereal aura, like a banished immortal descending. He had an indifferent expression, cold eyes, and a twitching mouth. There was an indescribable detachment in him as he looked down at them from above. Obviously, the person who just spoke was this young man. As for the 2 figures on the other side, one is a white-haired old man with an ink knife hanging on his waist. His face is old, and cold lightning flashes in his eyes when he opens and closes, giving people an extremely domineering sword intent. On the other side, there was a tall figure whose face could not be seen clearly. He was wearing a dark ghost mask, with a dagger in his hand shining coldly, and his pressure was extremely terrifying. As for the last person, he was wearing a gray robe and carrying a holy bow on his back. He was looking at them angrily, and his aura was also very strong. As soon as the 4 of them arrived, the momentum of the Z family was instantly shattered. What followed was the overwhelming pressure. Plop! Everyone in the Z family's legs were trembling. Most of them could not withstand the aura. Their legs went soft, and they actually fell to their knees on the ground. Only Yunsheng, Shui, Shan, and other strong men can barely hold on. At this moment, the whole audience was silent. Everyone in the astronomical Holy Land looked at the scene before them in disbelief. Ximeng also raised her head. When she saw that it was Nangong Chen, her beautiful eyes froze for a moment, and the fear deep in her eyes gradually faded away. She seemed to have heard correctly just now. The other party said that he wanted to protect the entire astronomical Holy Land. Soon, a cold voice filled with anger sounded. "What do you mean by Crown Prince or not? Which faction in the 3 states are you from? Do you know what you're doing?" Yunsheng gritted his teeth and looked at them, feeling extremely unhappy, as if something good had been ruined. He just couldn't believe that these 4 people who appeared out of nowhere would dare to attack him. Shan on the side gave him a crazy look, indicating that he was not a friendly person. The aura of the 3 figures above, just what he felt, brought him an extreme sense of danger. At this time, Shui in the crowd gradually came back to her senses. There was a purple light in her body that was helping her resist the pressure from the sky. She looked around in a daze. But when she saw the scene in front of her, her pupils couldn't help but shrink. "This is... How dare you speak to the crown prince of the divine dynasty like that? Kneel down!" Seeing this, Shura snorted coldly, and the dagger in his hand flashed with a cold light, and a crescent moon of light slashed straight down. Swish! A line of blood appeared on Yunsheng's legs as he struggled to hold on, and then a large amount of blood mist sprayed out, dyeing his exquisite purple robe red. With a thud, the legs suddenly fell to the knees, as if powerless. Yunsheng looked down in disbelief, the arrogance in his eyes gradually replaced by fear. He couldn't even feel his legs. His legs were chopped off. The speed of this attack was so fast that no one present could react. Even Shan, who was standing next to Yunsheng, had a look of panic on his face. No one expected that the strong man wearing a ghost mask would be so ruthless and directly break Yunsheng's legs. "We are the hidden Z family. What are you doing?" Shan was a little panicked and hurriedly helped Yunsheng, who was standing beside him. Behind him, the pupils of the Z family members who were kneeling on the ground suddenly shrank, and they looked at the scene in disbelief. Their Z family's descendant had his legs crippled by people from Sanzhou. Not far away, people in the astronomical Holy Land were so shocked that they were speechless, their eyelids trembling wildly. "Do you still remember me?" A cold voice sounded. In the air, Qian walked out slowly and said through gritted teeth. It was this group of bastards who surrounded him and the crown princess and wouldn't let them go. If the crown princess had not sent him out at the critical moment, he would probably have become a dead soul under the enemy's knife. "It's you." Zi Yunsheng was still a little confused, but he quickly reacted, his eyes filled with fear. Zishan also looked at the figure in the void in disbelief, his mind going blank. The two people they were chasing on the shore that day actually showed up today. "Prince, it was him that day who threatened to take the crown princess as a maid and hunted us down." A hint of anger appeared in Qi Yun's eyes, and he pointed at Zi Yunsheng. The words fell. 3 terrifying, murderous intentions descended at the same time. Zi Yunsheng finally understood why the other party came to kill him, but at this moment his legs were in great pain, so how could he care less? He looked at Zishan and other strong men, and said hoarsely to the people in the sky, "Quick, kill them for me, kill them for me." His eyes were red and violent, and his face was distorted to the extreme. Zishan was stunned, and the 6 saintly elders behind him were also stunned. "Young master, they have 3 saint kings." Zishan's face looked extremely ugly, and he lowered his voice. After hearing this, Zi Yunsheng was stunned for a moment. His eyes gradually regained composure, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. 3 saint kings. The forces behind the 2 people they provoked that day were so terrifying. A trace of regret appeared in his eyes. He regretted that he should have killed all the other parties at that time, and not let any of them go. I didn't expect that the woman had such an identity. If he heard correctly, the man seemed to be calling the young man in the lead the prince. Doesn't that mean? Boom! 7 blood mists bloomed from beside him. Blood dyed Zi Yunsheng's face red. Zi Yunsheng froze in place, his mind blank, staring blankly at everything in front of him, until he saw the robes of 2 terrifying figures in the void move slightly. Then he understood what had happened. Zishan and others beside him were no longer there, leaving only a pool of blood on the ground, and he was the only one kneeling there. His legs were soaked in blood, and when he came to his senses, a pool of yellow, smelly liquid slowly flowed out from under him. They are all dead. All the protectors sent out by the family this time are dead. Seeing the snow-clad figure in the air moving, Zi Yunsheng collapsed in a pool of muddy blood. His pupils gradually filled with fear, and he said in a trembling voice, "I am the heir of the Z family. Please don't kill me. Spare my life. I am of great use to the Z family. I am very valuable. You could tie me up and use me to threaten the Z family. Don't kill me. I'm really useful. Tell me what you want: women, resources, money, status. I can give it all to you." Nangong Chen said nothing. His eyes flashed with coldness. He was wearing a spotless snow-white robe, holding the human emperor's sword, and walked towards him in the air. And at this moment, a domineering force erupted from below. "You are just an ant. How dare you kill this young master?" Zi Yunsheng raised his head, revealing a ferocious look, and a terrifying murderous intent burst out. "It would be fine if the opponent's strong man came to kill me. But what's the point of sending a breathless pretty boy? Since the other party is determined to kill him, don't blame him for fighting to the death." He knew that the young man in front of him was an important figure of the other party. As long as he replaced him, he would make a profit. Zi Yunsheng unleashed all his cultivation without reservation. His eyes were blazing. Divine light shone from his sternum. Countless runes emerged and flashed, gathering an astonishing momentum. This is the secret of his ancient king body. The stars split the sky. Boom! In an instant, thunder roared and the world changed. In the sky, meteorites appeared out of nowhere, shining with cold light, as if a natural disaster had come. Each star was like a mountain, so fast that it burst out with divine fire and fell straight to the ground. Not good. Sun Changwen's pupils shrank slightly. That meteorite was no ordinary meteorite. If it falls, I am afraid that the entire astronomical Holy Land will be buried here, and even the saints will not be able to resist it. At this moment, everyone in the Holy Land became panicked. After feeling that powerful aura, their faces were filled with despair. Nangong Yu and Shura in the void also frowned, still hesitating whether to take action. Zi Yunsheng smiled when he saw this scene. Even if he dies, he must take these people with him. Seeing the figure in front of him, still slowly approaching, Zi Yunsheng laughed out loud and said evilly, "You might as well look up and see the surprise I have prepared for you." In the sky, the brightest star, which was also the largest meteorite, was locked directly on Nangong Chen. Falling from such a great height, even a saint would turn into a bloody mist on the spot. Zi Yunsheng seemed to have seen the other party turned into a pool of blood mist, and his smile became more and more wild. But soon his smile froze. Are you confident? A calm voice came, without any emotion. The young man in the snow-white clothes in front of him walked up to him and stopped, then slowly looked up at the sky. The eyes that made his heart tremble suddenly burst into a shocking dark light. Boom! Those meteorites that were about to fall stopped in the air, as if caught by an invisible giant hand. Immediately afterwards, explosions occurred one after another like sparks. Gravel burst forth, smoke billowed. As the breeze blows, the sky remains the same, as if nothing had happened. Zi Yunsheng was stunned until a piece of gravel hit his nose. He finally woke up in shock and looked at the person in front of him with great horror. Swish! The golden sword energy passed through the throat, and blood appeared. Zi Yunsheng was filled with reluctance. His eyes gradually lost their color, and with a thud, his body fell completely into a pool of blood. The entire hall fell into an eerie silence again, until the young man's emotionless eyes fell on the Zi family disciples and others behind him. The silence was broken. Don't kill us. Don't kill us. We didn't do anything at that time. Yes, it was all Zi Yunsheng's idea. He was just being lustful. Cries for mercy rang out one after another. These brightly dressed young men of the Zi family had long lost their previous arrogance and kowtowed their proud heads frantically just to seek forgiveness from the man in front of them. There was only one woman with purple hair and a delicate face. She didn't say a word from beginning to end, and the look in her beautiful eyes was very complicated. Nangong Chen looked at her for a second longer and felt that this woman seemed a little strange. But it was just strange. The sword in his hand would still be merciless. Thinking of this, his eyes were extremely indifferent. Anyone who chases Su Li must die. Just as Nangong Chen was about to make a move, three voices sounded at the same time. Wait a minute, Prince. Wait a minute, Prince. Sir, wait a minute. The first two sounds, one was unfamiliar and the other was Qi Yun's. As for the last sound, he recognized it as Ximing's voice. The three of them hurried over. Nangong Chen looked at them with some confusion. The leading elder in a black robe hurriedly said, Greetings, Crown Prince. I am Sun Changwan, the Holy Lord of the astronomical sacred land. I have no intention of interfering with the Crown Prince's revenge, but one of the Zi family members should not have been involved in the pursuit of the Crown Princess. Sun Changwan slowly recounted what had happened.